Oh, great. There's Tara.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin the meeting, I will ask Shannon to please read any housekeeping reminders that we have. Shannon?
Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Council on Access and Fairness meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raised hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder that this is a video conference. Per Bagley-Keene requirements, all cameras must be kept on for the duration of the meeting. If you are unable to have your camera on, you must indicate a reason for your non-appearance during the meeting. Please be aware of your surroundings behind you. All council meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select enable auto transcription. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. To begin, Elizabeth, will you please take roll call?
Yes. Adebo Mary. Chakshi.
Present.
De Leon. Cecilia, are you there?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't. I only heard the last part of that name. Sorry. Here.
Gray.
Who, me?
Mhm.
Oh, here.
Thank you. Higgins.
Here.
Rosario.
Here.
View.
Here.
Zakir. Absent. Davis.
Present.
Guinness.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Elizabeth. At this time, we open the floor for members of the public who wish to comment about an item on the agenda. Public comment will be limited to 2 minutes. At this time, we are open for the public to comment on matters concerning an agenda item or that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of COAF as a council. We encourage you to engage with us around matters that are within our jurisdiction. Shannon, do you see any hands raised for public comment?
No, there are no hands raised.
Thank you. I'll give another moment just in case. All right, thank you very much. And then we're going to move forward with our agenda. As a reminder to council members and to the public, the agenda is posted on the State Bar website along with attachments. Please give us grace as you download those attachments and as we continue to engage with one another. I'd like to welcome Judge Diaz as one of our liaisons. Thank you for joining us today, Judge Diaz.
Good morning.
My chair's report is relatively short. I'd like to start by just thanking you all for being part of the council. I want to acknowledge our vice chair, Tara Davis, who is here with us joining online today. My encouragement for this year as we go through COAF this year is to engage with our work plan and our working groups. Today's meeting is very important, of course, for the reports and updates that we'll receive from the State Bar staff, but also as this is the time for us to really engage with and set our working plan for the year. And so I hope that you all have been able to review what's been proposed, but if not, that you will be very thoughtful as we go through today's meeting and prior meetings that you may have attended, to be able to share areas that you believe are worthy of focus or perhaps should be highlighted even within the more general areas found on our work plan. Our best work is done when we actively participate. I have found in I think this is my 4th year on COAF, that our best meetings are ones where we have robust discussions, and even where sometimes our State Bar staff may be always engaged, but maybe a little, oh my goodness, I wasn't anticipating that. We really feed off of each other best, and I think we serve the public and access to justice best when we are thoughtful and considerate and engaged with the issues that are being brought forward to us. I know as well that this is a part of our discussion later on, but I want to encourage you all to engage with Tuesday's summit and to consider, as is the focus of that summit, and perhaps I would say like my chair's focus this year, to consider those less considered forms of diversity and inclusion for those who need to be told that and reminded that they belong in the legal profession, that they have access to our profession. So Tuesday's summit, again, you'll hear more later as we go through the meeting. But if you are not already registered, I encourage you to register and to engage with us as we think about those less considered areas of diversity. At this time, I'm going to turn over to Elizabeth for the director's report.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. So my report today will be quite short. I just wanted to let you know that we have set our 2026 meeting schedule. So we do meet 4 times each year, and 2 times we are allowed to meet in person. So I would encourage for next year to, if you're able to join us in person, that you do so. And so the meetings will be on March 20th, June 26th, September 11th, and December 4th. We are hoping to have our June 26th meeting in person in San Francisco. Also, very likely, we are planning to hold our in-person diversity summit the day before the COAF meeting on June 25th, also in San Francisco. So I hope you will all be able to join us then. I believe Shannon will be sending out our calendar invites shortly, so you can have those all on your calendar. And then usually we have our December meeting in Los Angeles. So yes,
Can you just say the December date one more time?
December 4th.
Thank you.
So yeah, so yes, I think kind of following up on Shalak's comments, it is nice to also for us to engage in person.
Thank you. I hope that you all can put those dates on your calendar now. One of the things I've appreciated most about the state bar staff is how diligent they are with sharing things with us well ahead of time. So hopefully we can, barring any personal matters that come up, plan to attend those meetings in person. If there's a strong enough motion, I will bring a little girl with us to those meetings, and you all can be beautifully distracted as I am at home. All right, well, we are now at the point to have approval of our September 5th session minutes. Are there any comments or questions on those minutes which were attached to the agenda for today before I call for a motion to approve? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve in a second for the session minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
I see Chokshi moved and Rosario, was that a second?
Second.
Excellent. Elizabeth, can you please take a roll for approval of the minutes?
Adebo Miri, absent. Chokshi,
Approve.
Davis,
Approve.
De Leon,
Approve.
Higgins,
Approve.
Rosario,
Approve.
Zakir, absent. Guinness.
Approve.
Okay, hold on a second. My sheet, it does not have all the folks on it. Okay, Wenner, View,
Approved.
sorry. I'm sorry, my sheet is not correct, so I'm having trouble tallying this. So if you could just bear with me just for one moment. Okay, so we have 8 to approve, so the minutes are approved.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right. Well, as you all can see, we are ahead of schedule, which I anticipate happening quite a bit in today's meeting. Please do not be like those students in class who don't speak so everyone can get out early. Please engage as we move into our business for today. And so our first item, 4.1, will be an update and discussion on the Provisional Licensure Program. Is Erica here? Do we need to promote her to speak?
She's being promoted, I believe.
Okay.
There she is.
Oh, great. Good morning,
Hi.
Erica.
Morning, everybody. I'm happy to be with you this morning. I'll just take a moment to share my screen. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. So my name is Erica Carroll. I'm a lead program analyst with the Office of Access and Inclusion, and I'm happy to be providing you an update on the Provisional Licensure program. So as some background, I think we have some new folks, so some background on the Provisional Licensure program, or the PLP as I'll refer to it, is that the Supreme Court recently expanded an existing PLP to folks who were affected by challenges that arose in connection with the February 2025 bar exam. A number of administrative issues arose with the exam, and so as some recourse for folks who are first-time test takers, they were given the opportunity, if they failed or withdrew from that exam, to participate in this provisional licensure program where they have the opportunity to practice under the supervision of an attorney in California. And so this program became effective. The application's open starting in September 1st of 2025, and the application window will close on December 31st of this month. Eligible applicants will be able to practice through the end of December of 2027 if they are approved for the program participation. And so earlier this year, COAF reviewed data from the original PLP and had expressed a desire to support this new cohort of provisionally licensed lawyers based on some of the data that had arisen. There were questions about things like disparities in compensation or not having enough time to study for the eventual bar exam that folks would need to take. And so we've done a number of things since that meeting to try to support this emerging program. And so on the State Bar staff side, we have encouraged participation in the program, especially amongst legal aid grantees. And so we've provided information to enable them to make that decision if they would like to hire a provisionally licensed lawyer and what that means in terms of the use of their grant funds. There's part of one of our grants, our CalHFA grant, there's actually a dedicated opportunity to provide, funding for a fellowship under that grant for PLLs. And we've also participated with partners like the Legal Services Funders Network to get the word out about this program. We have also convened a working group with Cecilia and Tristan. We've met with the working group has met with admissions to discuss their data collection plans for the next iteration of this program. There has been a desire to participate in the development of the surveys and provide feedback about the timing of the surveys. I think one major point, for example, was to start collecting data sooner so that we would have the benefit of kind of pre and post participation in the program. And so there's been some discussion around that, data collection efforts and survey timing. Another major initiative with the working group has been the development of a resource guide for provisionally licensed lawyers and for their supervisors. I believe that was included in your meeting materials for today. So it's intended to really just bring together a number of resources, continuing education opportunities, information on topics that are most salient for individuals who might be starting out in this position as a PLL. So it includes things like working with clients, addressing mental health and wellness as you enter the profession, legal writing resources, preparation for the bar exam, as most folks will choose to pursue that eventually either during or after the end of their time in the PLP, and professional development opportunities, including connections with local bar associations or affinity groups. So it's not intended to be an exhaustive resource, but it is intended to provide a good starting point for folks who might be looking for more information on these topics and for their supervisors to support them during their participation in the program. And then finally, another thing that the working group has been exploring is a collaboration with the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission. As I mentioned, under our CalHFA grant, there is an opportunity for for legal aid grantees to fund provisionally licensed lawyers on 2-year fellowships. And so we're still working out what exactly that will look like in terms of supporting that cohort. But we've discussed things like trainings that, the wrinkle there is that folks may not be onboarded at the same time. So we're talking about cyclical or asynchronous opportunities to have trainings that, again, would be explicitly for PLLs, but also helping them expand kind of their connection to the legal profession in general and other new professionals like themselves. And so we've also had our Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship grants that have been administered for the past few years. And so there was discussion about trying to integrate PLLs with former legal aid leader fellows to, again, provide that kind of exposure and community while entering the profession. So that is still in the works, sort of what we're working on with the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission. And Judge Rosie, who I know used to be a member of COAF and now as part of the commission, is participating in the working group for that piece of things. So we're excited to move that forward. And then just to give you an update, we received some data from our Office of Admissions regarding the current status of the PLP. As of earlier this week, 55 applications had been submitted and 53 had been approved. As I mentioned, the application window closes on December 31st. So we'll see how many more of those come in before the end of the year. And the State Bar is actively recruiting 3 provisionally licensed lawyers ourselves to hire during the period of the program. So happy to provide any additional details if I can, or answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Erica. Any questions? Erica, would you mind stopping your screen share so that I can see if anyone else has any questions? Thank you so much. Komal, I see that your hand is raised.
Yes, I had a quick question about the resources, which is a great guide. I really enjoyed looking through that. One of the things I noticed is that there's an e-learning portal where there's information about working with clients. And I was thinking about the other groups that might benefit from something like that. Is that available to others, or is it only available to the PLP folks?
Yes, so the State Bar's e-learning portal is available to all attorneys in the state. And then because provisionally licensed lawyers aren't fully licensed, my understanding is there is a way for them to have access to the e-learning portal. But yeah, those courses, at least the ones that pertain to the State Bar, are available to everybody.
And attorneys would access the e-learning portal through my State Bar profile.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tristan?
It's not a question. I just have a kudos. Erica, I think this is really wonderful. I'm pleased to see the way the formatting turned out and the inclusion of things that we suggested. So I certainly want to say great job. I think it reads well and it's visually very accessible, very pleasing. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Wayner?
Erica, great job. Question for you in regards to the FAQ that the State Bar put out to supervisors and PLPs. Is there any work being done to update that to reflect some of the questions that supervisors and PLPs have over the last couple of years to reflect that?
I think that would probably be a question for our Office of Admissions, as they are running that program and we are kind of supporting or walking alongside. So I'm happy to look into that for you, but I unfortunately don't have the answer for that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Erica, I have a data question, which you may or may not know yet. Is there anywhere on the application where it's asked if the 53, the 55 applied, 53 approved, are planning to take the February 26th bar exam or the July 26th exam?
I don't recall that being a question on the application, but I can find that out for you as well.
I was just wondering, to go back to some of our earlier concerns, comments about those who engage and eventually taking the bar, if there's a way to track more efficiently than you all just having to sift through names, right?
Right.
Those who may be engaged in the program, and also whether they were planning to take the exam. And I'm curious about whether or not they enrolled in the program planning to take February and then did not take February, and if there could be follow-up to find out, hey, was your participation part of why you didn't take that exam? Did you find you needed more time because you were working to study in July? Or, just the impact of that on bar taking and then eventually bar passage.
Yeah, I'm happy to look into that. And I do think that would be a helpful data point to have and to understand. Yeah.
Hopefully, God willing, knock on wood, these will not be provisions that are necessary again. But I do think it's good to have that information. Tristan?
Yeah. Do we have any idea how many exam takers would have qualified out of, so like we know the 55, how many were eligible?
Yes, my understanding is that it was probably somewhere between 900 and 1,000 who could have applied had they chosen to. Not that all would necessarily be approved, but that they would have, had either withdrawn or failed the exam and then would have been eligible to apply.
Okay.
And can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
How did we reach those 1,000 people to give them this option?
Well, I know for our office on the legal aid side that we've done outreach to grantees about it to encourage them to hire PLLs. The State Bar has advertised it on the website. I believe that emails have gone out from the Office of Admissions advertising the opportunity. I don't know exactly how many they've distributed, but they have included those resources to folks, targeted to folks who it would be relevant to.
Okay, because I would be interested in knowing if the bar has actually sent an email to each of those people who would have been qualified, just knowing how devastating it is to not pass or to have to withdraw. They may not have seen the information, and we're putting a lot of effort into supporting them. It would be nice to know that they've gotten that information. Now, of course, we can't spoon feed them, I understand, but it would be, that's a very low acceptance rate. Not acceptance, but the acceptance rate is quite high, but very low taking rate of the people that are eligible. And I wonder why that is.
The PLLs were required to apply with a supervisor. So that may have been a barrier.
Okay. That's like less than 5%. That's really low.
So they have to, just so that we're all clear, because some might not have been on COAF when this started, they have to, when they submit their application, state who they have to essentially already have the job and then be applying for approval from the State Bar. Would that be accurate, Erica, rather than applying and then later finding someone to supervise them?
Right, that's my understanding, that they would have had to secure supervision prior to their application.
Yeah, so I can see that,
Okay.
Directly impacting. Yeah.
It's less than 0.5% of those that might have been eligible. Seems really low. So, but I that makes more sense than why we've also reached out to the employers. That's very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, thank you, Erica. Does anyone, before we let Erica go, have any other questions or suggestions? Tristan?
Just knowing that we have lots of time. Do we have the demographic data on the 55 that applied for the program?
I don't have that currently.
There is demographic data, but we didn't receive that.
Right.
Like they collect that data, but we just don't have it today.
Maybe the next time the working group meets, maybe we could have a follow-up on that. Like I would love to know what communities are being served, and if there's a gap, then we might be able to change some of the way we're approaching it.
Sounds great.
Might I suggest for that working group to perhaps also look at the rural population, if that's part of, I know that might not be what we initially consider as demographics, but if from some of what I've heard before, those might be populations who are impacted particularly by the administration, and to be able to have a sense of, are they finding supervisors? Are they engaging with these programs? Okay, great. Well, thank you, Erica, very much for your time today. Look forward to hearing from that working group and follow up at a future meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item, before we move to the next item, I just want to acknowledge another one of our liaisons who was able to join us, Rachel Satanovich from our Cal Law Pathways partners. We'll hear your liaison report later, Rachel, but thank you for taking the time to join us today and to be present for our meeting. We really appreciate it. All right, our next item will be taken out of order. I see Sylvia is here. Great. So it will be a presentation and discussion on research related to artificial intelligence and bias in recruitment and advancement in the legal profession. Sylvia.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Sylvia Nam. I'm a senior program analyst in the Office of Access and Inclusion. Today, I will be presenting on a near final version of a diversity brief titled AI and Bias in Recruitment and Hiring, developed in collaboration with the COAF working group, currently Yusuf Zakir and Carlos Rosario, and earlier Judge Michael Rhodes. The brief reflects research findings that were shared with COAF in March and June, as well as working group input and the final design and layout. I'll then turn to a draft of another brief that emerged from the AI and Bias project, but extends beyond its scope. And I'm hoping to get feedback and have a robust discussion with you all. That second brief, potentially third and fourth brief, explores broader trends in recruitment, retention, and advancement in the for-profit and nonprofit sectors. And again, for that portion, I'll be asking for your feedback on how to refine the focus and whether COAF should consider spinning off additional briefs based on what it considers to be pertinent, whether that be its work plan or its goals for the upcoming year. So a quick recap, including for those who are new to COAF. So the AI and Bias project, the broader goal was to understand how AI and related technologies are reshaping the legal profession through the lens of equity and bias. Research included a literature review on existing work and bias in employment practices, including how academics with expertise in civil rights, sociology, and tech and law see the role of AI in reproducing structural inequities in employment. That research also included interviews with law school career services directors, as well as the executive director of the trade group NALP, the National Association for Law Placement. And I'm flagging that for now for further discussion in a little bit. So you'll find the full brief in your meeting materials. I wanted to extend a special thank you to my colleague, Crystal Bundang, for her fantastic design work that you'll see in that brief. So I'll share a brief overview focusing on the role of automated decision-making systems, ADM, in recruitment and hiring, some areas of concern, and calls to action. So in an earlier COAF meeting, I shared that AI and automated decision-making systems are not the same. So not all ADM systems involve AI, and conversely, not all AI systems are automated, also involve automated decision-making. Still, AI presents a useful shorthand for the predictive and rule-based tools that shape modern hiring and are very much part of the current infrastructure that all of us have seen and potentially use. Many employers use ADM systems to filter, rank, and screen candidates. And while these tools increase efficiency, they also raise a series of concerns. So algorithms can analyze resumes, schedule interviews with prospective candidates, but they can also do things like assess facial expressions and speech patterns when it comes to determining and assessing and scoring candidates when it comes to quote unquote fit. The benefits, of course, are that these tools do create efficiencies, whether that be through filters, through keyword matching that then are subject to later rounds of human review. But again, the use of chatbots to determine whether or not there are certain cultural expressions or forms of speech patterns that reflect the preferences of employers do raise causes for concern. So the brief contains a section on primary concerns that you see here. One thing that I would like to underscore is that patterns of exclusion mirror historical hiring data. And when a knowledge environment is biased, uneven, and exclusionary, so is that training data. So you've probably heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out, meaning that flawed inputs create flawed outputs. But I think scholars like Ruha Benjamin have pointed out that the issue of discriminatory digital systems is more systemic than the phrasing garbage in, garbage out. Insofar as building upon systems comprised of racial, gender, class, and other disparities amplifies and scales problems that they are ostensibly designed to address. The other concern that I'd like to point your attention to is that these models are also so-called black boxes, even for those building them, creating an even higher bar when it comes to challenging AI-mediated or informed decisions when bias occurs. I think that many of you may have seen this in the news when it comes to the use of chatbots for AI-mediated therapy for people experiencing mental health issues. The mechanisms are also more subtle than obvious and clearly precede AI systems. For example, the use of proxy variables such as zip codes. So for those familiar with public health, zip codes are generally a key kind of determinant when it comes to access to healthy foods, healthy air, and healthy water. Similarly, because of the function of zip codes as a geographic stand-in, it can also be a seemingly neutral way to build in race and class disparities. And then there's also the assumption that the output from AI is objective rather than subjective. So the assumption there is that humans are a little bit more unpredictable than computer and automated mediated systems. And so the assumption is that what you see from the AI can be objective when in fact it's also quite as subjective, depending on what the prompt has been. The brief also highlights the legal and regulatory landscape, including recently passed state laws that hold employers and their third-party vendors responsible for discriminatory outcomes, building upon fair employment laws. The most recent legislation is effective October 1st, so a couple of months ago, and it remains to be seen what sort of litigation when it comes to discriminatory outcomes might look like. And there is another portion of the brief that looks at a pending case, Workday, which is one of the largest applicant tracking system softwares used by employers in a case called Mobley v. Workday. Finally, the brief closes with ways that employers and attorneys can align AI use with the principles of fairness and professional responsibility, such as human oversight, transparency in how and when AI is used. And then I think also importantly, being clear on what the tool is being used for and if it's aligned with the task at hand. So I wanted to pause here to take questions before transitioning to the next portion of my presentation.
Thank you. Sylvia, would you mind? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Oh yeah, because if you do it that way, then I can see.
Yeah. So I just changed the view so that we can see in the conference room if anybody raises hands.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Carlos?
Yeah, I have a question, Sylvia. You probably already know where this is going, but the EU with the EU AI Act coming into effect, do you think that the companies in the United States will sort of adopt those restrictions similar to how most have adopted the restrictions related to the GDPR? And if so, do you think that those requirements, which include taking into account bias and mitigating that or combating that, and providing transparency to try and get rid of the black box problem would assist in the issues that are being brought up today?
I think the
Does
California
that make
law.
sense?
Sure. So I think that California's recent state laws holding employers responsible as well as their third-party vendors, so it include vendors like Workday, for discriminatory outcomes, because that just passed effective October 1st, present an interesting kind of comparison against the EU legislation. I do think that California is on the vanguard when it comes to regulating AI. Whether or not the laws on the book and the enforcement that follows matches, I think remains to be seen. But I do think it's an important moment in time where California does represent an effort to really think about what AI looks like and not leaving it up to tech companies to tell the public that their tools are not discriminatory and what those outcomes are. I think the thing that's kind of open-ended, and I'm happy to pursue this as additional research, is whether or not the California Civil Rights Department actually has the enforcement mechanism, the personnel, the kind of audit infrastructure to be able to pursue employers, and if they are staffed in terms of their own lawyers to go against large, very well-resourced and very profitable tech companies. And I think is remains to be seen and is open-ended.
Thanks. I appreciate the response.
Thank you, Carlos.
Tristan?
Sylvia, I'm just so delighted to see this report and to see the position that it looks like we're starting to take. Very, very happy. As we've talked about before, some companies have been talking about these things for, 10, 15 years. And I'm really happy to see us weighing in. And I'm hoping that we will do something similar with outcomes from judicial software at some point. Maybe we can talk about that in the new business section. I think this work is fantastic. So thank you to you and your whole team.
Tina?
Thank you. And Sylvia, thank you so much for this information. I was just wondering, and I might be way off base, but because this is just all a learning curve for me too, but does the state bar align with what the full American Bar Association does as far as practice regarding AI? Is there alignment or continuity with that, or do we have the ability as a state to do things a little bit differently?
Yes, excellent question. I believe that there is a California rule of professional conduct where attorneys, when they apply for licenses, I can't remember the name of the rule off the top of my head, 3.481, Elizabeth, subsection B, something about doing things that are not discriminatory, that all attorneys have professional.
8.4.1.
8.4.1. All attorneys have a responsibility to reduce, I have the provision and I'm blanking on it and I don't want to misquote it, but there are professional conduct rules that are aligned with not so much AI use, but the larger principles of fairness and responsibility, professional conduct and transparency. The ABA also has a published opinion that was in an earlier version of the draft that I'm happy to share out. But I do think that it's very fast moving. And I think when it comes to where the ABA stands versus the state bar rules, I think professional conduct and rules of professional conduct become an important sort of mechanism where attorneys know without being overwhelmed in a fast changing tech landscape, that the core professional values of the legal profession are still there.
And I just would add that the state bar, we adopted practical guidance regarding responsible use of generative AI that cites to Rule 8.4.1. And then the ABA has adopted a model rule, 8.4G, which is a similar rule, but each jurisdiction must adopt their own.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can you summarize that rule?
8.4.1.
Yeah, can you just, for those that don't have it memorized?
It's that an attorney or law firm, I believe, shall not discriminate.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Well, Sylvia, at this point, I have questions around, first of all, I want to echo the kudos to you and your team, to Crystal, who helped design the brief. I think it's incredibly well done, which leads to my non-substantive question, with this one being almost done and ready to publish. Where will the briefs live? Will they on the State Bar website or somewhere where
That's a great
those
question.
can find them? How will
Yeah.
they be circulated so that others can see your hard work, receive the benefits of the research that's been done? I have thoughts around, like, will they be sent to Diversity Seal recipients, past summit participants, press releases? Like, how will this be circulated, and how can we encourage others to begin thoughtfully engaging with this work?
I can start.
Okay.
So right now, any kind of work product that COAF produces, we post it to the COAF webpage. But the State Bar is undergoing a new design for the website, which we hope to roll out soon. And so hopefully at that juncture, we'd be able to find a designated space for materials like this. And then, of course, we will be sending to all of our stakeholders, like the DEI Leadership Seal recipients, summit participants, and that sort of thing.
Great.
You know, I think because these topics are kind of discrete, hopefully we'd be able to work with our communications team to maybe do some social media, post on LinkedIn, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
I'd love to see us do a CLE on this. I don't know what our form is, you know, does it have to be in the summit, or is there some other opportunity, or maybe it's a different part of the State Bar, but I think it would be really powerful to have maybe an employment lawyer who could talk about the downfall, and then somebody from Sylvia's team to talk about the findings, you know what I mean? And maybe an expert to comment on the workday matter, because this is very deep and it's difficult for people if they aren't already scared to engage with it. And I think if we can bring it to life, that'd be really powerful.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you, Tristan.
Thank you.
All right, Sylvia, to the, at least for me, much anticipated second part of your presentation.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I mentioned that I conducted interviews with career services directors at a few law schools. I also interviewed the executive director of the trade group NAUP, that produces regular publications that I think many in this room are familiar with. And so what emerged from those insights were important insights that weren't necessarily related to AI and tech, but definitely on a tangible shift from what NAUP calls an analog era of recruitment when it comes to the on-campus interview recruitment cycle to the digital era of recruitment. So I think this is an opportunity to think about what a second and then potentially third or fourth briefs might look like based on the conversation. So I'm going to be spotlighting certain graphs that we designed based on existing data, just to kind of jog the structure of the discussion, and then potentially pull out and both refine and elaborate on certain themes. So a major issue that emerged in all of my conversations with law school careers directors was that the recruitment timeline for private law recruitment was incredibly compressed as well as fragmented. And that coordination is no longer so much for career services directors in the hands of law schools, but is in the hands of law firms. And so there's questions, and there's, I think, arguments to be made on both sides that this is beneficial to students who can reach out to employers directly. But if you're a 1L student and you've only been in law school for, say, 3 months, 2 months, and you're really working on both the socialization, but also the kind of the discipline of being a 1L, that really shifting gears and thinking about how to manage recruitment, reaching out to employers, the entire sort of, the toolkit involved in drafting a compelling resume, doing like not hard networking, soft networking is all can potentially disadvantage students from, say, non-traditional students, first gen students with immigrant backgrounds. And so that's been the law school's position. NALP's position is that this fragmented landscape where students can reach out directly to employers is that it may be advantageous to those with potentially not from the top, 2 to 3 law schools in the country. I'm not sure exactly what the mechanisms would be for a very exceptional student to rise to the top to get the attention of an employer, given what we know about how that what tunneling looks like. If the entry is very tight and a lot of people are trying to get in through the front door, what sort of cause of concerns they may be. So one data point that now shares in one of its publications is that, and it demonstrates how OCI is no longer the standard recruitment mechanism, is that for 2L summer 2025 programs, only a quarter was offered through the OCI system. Everything else was made through EIP, early interview programs, and non-OCI offers. I don't know if that means students directly applying with the employers and interviewing off cycle and securing a position many months in advance, but it does show that OCI has been declining, even though it still is used as one of the primary mechanisms of recruitment. I do find it to be a compelling data point, but I also know that it's only 1 year. And if it was longitudinal, it might probably tell also a more complex story. So just wanted to gather initial responses, immediate reactions.
There are so many that I have, but I will open to my colleagues. Perhaps if I can give a reminder to those who may have been out of the law school era to also keep in mind that OCI and often much of NALP's feedback is related to colloquially known as big law offers and jobs. And so just keep that in mind when you're looking at this, is these are also offers given for typically for big law roles. And that what we're looking at in the timeline right now is first year students who are applying during their first year for their 12 summer roles, potentially summer associate roles in big law. Kristen?
So I think my first reaction is that I would guess this would disproportionately impact students of global majority because if you already have connections, your dad works here, your sister works there, it's very easy to reach out outside of OCI. OCI is I think, is the opportunity to be more neutral and more broad reaching for students. So I would worry that this means, that we are having more and more division between our students and those of global majority, which is a phrase I just learned recently that I love, because I guess I'm slow, are not being served well. So that would be my worry. That's just my first thought. Not that there's anything we can do about that, but that's maybe is a troubling trend that indicates maybe we need to do more now than we were before to help those 1Ls. Especially like first gen students. I mean, without those connections. Ugh. Sorry, I'm just stating the obvious.
This is also a concern raised by those offering career services, is that if there isn't a standard kind of set of norms when it comes to recruitment, it's actually very hard to advise. And so the playbook has changed, or in this case, there are multiple playbooks. And to your point, Tristan, if you have connections, your dad is an attorney in big law, and you already have played golf with them, I don't know, in this hypothetical situation, then you don't, that kind of friction isn't there. And so reducing friction, I think, and creating the hidden scripts of professional engagement and making those hidden scripts visible to first gen and immigrant students, I think it's really important in the first L. And I think that career services directors and staff know this too. And they too have kind of, I think, are grappling what this era of advising looks like for them.
One that I would raise that even goes back a step is the assumption in those first couple of months of school that students, particularly those first generation students, those immigrant students, those from underserved backgrounds, even know what big law is. They even know what the jobs they're applying for are, that they even understand the timeline, that it's crucial for them in their first few months of school to be securing their job for the following year's summer, whereas they may come from the mindset that when I'm ready for the job, I apply for the job. So in my second year, I will apply for a job for that summer, to then find out, oh, those jobs are gone. You should have applied a year ago when you were just learning, whether or not you're bubbling in your Scantron properly. And instead, you should have been at that time networking and applying for a job for the following year, while you also still need to figure out what you're doing that immediate summer as well. And so I think there's an educational question that arises about even helping students to understand what those jobs are, what the context of those jobs are, the differences between those firms, the types of practice areas that are available to them. That then becomes at issue and is, to your point, Sylvia, hidden curriculum stuff that if you come in knowing already, okay, here's what big law is, and without even the connections, but just having that knowledge, that could advantage you when you hear, oh, apply for this job, you're already at the space of understanding what those jobs are.
Right. In addition to, reading hundreds of pages of text.
Yes.
Going to class.
Right.
Drinking enough water and eating vegetables.
What's Iraq?
Tita, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I love hearing my lawyer colleagues talking the jargon of something that I didn't go through, but I can only imagine. But Tristan, I thank you for using that term global majority. That was coined by Karen Hunter, who is a former professor, sociologist, and a featured radio host on Urban View. So
Thank
just
you.
so you know where it came from. But I was so the EIP process, it actually seems like, although it's a smaller percentage here, and I see that the on-campus interview process is still most prevalent, but it gives a huge advantage, right, with the EIP process for those first-year students, or does it not? Because I'm just, I started reading up a little bit when you first came on with this so that I could know what I'm exactly talking about. But it seems like it's an early prep, but it really gives more of an advantage than the OCI. Is that the reason you think that it's starting to gain a lot more momentum? And I'm asking this from an ignorant standpoint. Obviously, I didn't go to law school, even though I would love to, but
Still can.
too old. But thank you.
I'll have to do more research on that. My understanding was always OCI, non-OCI. And so I think early interview programs are within my non-OCI kind of bucket conceptually in my head. So I'm happy to do follow-up. But it is, I don't know if they're dedicated programs or if it's just a catch-all term for when students on their own, on their individual merit and volition, reach out to employers, or if it's some sort of dedicated program that elite schools have where they funnel exceptional students who already know early on that they want to go into biz law. But maybe this is a good point to transition to some of what was being said. So because OCI is, to Shalak's point, focused on big law, internally we discussed what about legal aid and public interest law, which operates on a very different recruitment cycle, system, set of norms. So another theme that emerged that could become its own diversity brief based on your feedback is what recruitment and retention look like for legal aid positions. And again, I think some of that literature has talked about public interest drift, students who come in wanting to work in legal aid, working community justice oriented fields, that are mission aligned and have a social underpinning may end up wanting to do that when they join law school, enter law school, but may end up because of the debt loads for factors that come also relate to the salary bars that you see on the slide, may incentivize students to actually then pursue and pivot and go into private law. And so another section, potentially brief, would be to focus on what nonprofit and recruitment and retention looks like. The data shows that attrition and burnout are quite high amongst legal aid attorneys. There is a study by the Legal Aid Association of California from a few years ago that says that legal aid attorneys leave in the first 2 years, 50% leave in the first 2 years, which is about 10% higher than a decade before. So it means that that kind of, baseline capacity of legal aid is about replacement and not expansion. If you constantly have a revolving door of legal aid attorneys who are mission aligned, who want to do public interest work, feel really burnt out and kind of poorly compensated, who then are like, this is not tenable for me, and then pivot out after being out of law school for a couple of years. The State Bar also has a companion piece to its Justice Gap study from 2019, I believe, that focuses on the public interest drift. So wanted to get your feedback. I was on followed the conversation with Erica Carroll about provisional licensing. Potentially, it might be a good opportunity to interview students who, the 55 who applied, and then potentially some sort of alternative group of those who didn't about what their decisions were. That might be both important insights. I think that probably has to do with conversations about cross-office collaboration, but that might be a promising opportunity. But really focusing on the nonprofit side of things that now doesn't publish as much on, I think is important, with an opportunity to do more research and share out those findings.
Thank you, Sylvia. Any comments or questions to Sylvia or suggestions for the research?
I don't, but Sylvia, if there's ever anything I can do to assist you, I love this topic and feel a certain affinity towards it from just the equity gap perspective. So if there's ever anything I can help with, please let me know.
Thank you.
Again, I may be stating or asking the obvious, but it seems like it would be really important to understand how the legal aid, the demographics of the legal aid attorneys, because I think we've got some research that shows that people of global majority are more likely to go into public service, and less likely to go into the big law jobs. And so if they are leaving legal aid at a very high percentage, are they leaving the profession? I think that maybe is a gap we'd want to kind of understand a little bit more.
I think,
or maybe we already do.
Well, I think, and I don't have the exact data top of mind, but I know that anecdotally, I know that a lot of legal aid attorneys leave legal aid to go into government, or they leave to go into like philanthropy or some kind of non-legal profession.
So again, the lesser paid parts of law.
And then also we know from our inactive attorney study, most attorneys that go inactive for reasons other than retirement are attorneys of color. So I think there's some intersections, many intersections there that we could maybe look at.
Okay.
Yeah. Sylvia, I think you have a lot of rich material. You will be writing briefs for a very long time. If I might
happy to. Yeah.
If I might give one more recommendation that I think is actually being overlooked in all of this, it's the impact of all of this also on what makes up the majority of attorneys, those smaller firms, solo firms, mid-size even, that are not included in OCI, right? But are also not necessarily included on our public interest side. And it might be, I think, beneficial to those firms to have something around how all of this recruiting and so on is impacting their abilities to recruit and to continue. And again, I have in mind those rural firms as well and rural services. And just what does all of this timing mean? And I think that could be very important to think about if students are being told, perhaps by timing, that big law is the first thing they should think of, right? Are perhaps the more promising students, I have my own equity thoughts about how we determine who's promising and successful, but perhaps those students are being immediately snapped up in the first or second semesters of their 1L year. And what is the impact of that on not just public interest, but on those smaller firms that actually serve a lot of the needs of Californians and those who need access to justice? I'm recalling a couple of years ago, the Supreme Court of Los Angeles, looking at your background, Tita, made a change in how they recruit their postgraduate law clerks because they were losing out on the ability to get good and highly qualified because they were waiting till after graduation. And seeing those people again being impacted by who's being interviewing and finding potentially their postgraduate jobs. I mean, making real wealth decisions for their lives 3 months into law school. And generational wealth, even depending on where they come from, as well as real life decisions. So I would just encourage you to think, we're thinking public interest and impact on public interest, but my understanding is the vast majority of California attorneys are in smaller firms, more mid-sized firms, and perhaps might benefit from a brief or some conversation about how this impacts the ability of those firms to continue. Sorry, Tita, I see you unmuted.
Oh, no. I thought you said my name, so I just wanted to.
I did, yes.
Right. I just wanted to be prepared. But, I love what you're saying. But, I also wonder on the flip side, where in this very contentious landscape of an administration or that we find ourselves in today, where discrimination is being looked at very differently in across the country, but particularly with many big law firms. Will there be the encouragement of, I'll say what Tristan said, the global majority to or people of color to go into non-big large firms? Will there be a turn where it's kind of like from a discrimination basis where no, you're not the profile that we do want. We want to encourage you to go rural into these smaller firms or to be public defenders or in the public interest instead. So I wonder also if we will start to see a turn in that just based on the temperature of the country. And maybe that's not even a valid point, but the discrimination, things that are happening with large law firms that we're seeing, it's real.
Yes. So a portion of the very provisional draft for the second brief connects to your point, Dr. Gray, which is that the person Edward Blum, who was in the head of the organization that ended race-conscious admissions at Harvard and University of North Carolina, sued Perkins Coie and Morrison and Forster, alleging that their diversity fellowship programs violated federal anti-discrimination laws. And so that coincided with a decline in private big law of diversity fellowships too. So I think like the messaging, but also, if prestigious law firms are capitulating and whatnot, what the consequences of that are, both in terms of the visibility of that and what that communicates to students who are being told that that there are only certain spaces available for them, or if at all.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Or, sorry, Tristan, I didn't see your hand.
No, that's okay. I just put it up. I was wondering if an area of study for Sylvia's team might be to reach out to a cross-section of the rural and small firms to see how law schools might support them in recruiting. In other words, could there be an opportunity for like a small firm career fair or and I'm thinking like differently, right? Because small firms don't have the resources. They don't have the energy to send in a recruiter. But what if there was, the ability to have law students come in and have, 25 different small employer firms sitting there, and they get to give a quick brief about their resume, or we find out from the small firms that actually what they would love would be a packet of resumes from the school for people that they think are promising. Maybe the schools could support that effort a little more, and then they could be helping their students to get those positions. I don't want to be encouraging people of color to apply to those positions instead, because then we're furthering the wealth gap, right? But if it's an option, maybe there's a way that schools could do something quite a little different. I'm looking at you because obviously I don't know, but where they might be able to support those regional, rural firms and make it. Maybe they'll say, there's this one thing you could do that would be really easy that we don't think of. So just a thought that might be an area for exploration, because I know we're consistently trying to support the rural population.
Thank you, Sylvia. That might be a good space for groups 3, 4, or 5.
Yes, happy to. I guess maybe this is a good segue. Elizabeth, how much more time? I know that Brady is
If you
supposed
could wrap up.
wrap it up. Okay. So here are these questions that I think we were able to answer. I'm also happy to take comments and recommendations off screen, offline, in terms of what diversity briefs are. And then I think as COAF discusses its work plan and goals, also happy to take what that kind of integration might look like.
I think that's absolutely right, Sylvia, because we are, going to have a work plan discussion, and I think we're going in a lot of different directions and veering very far away from AI and bias specifically. So I think that would be a good space to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. I don't know how to stop share, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvia, for this really thought-provoking presentation and the hard work that you all have done on it. I look forward to what our work plan will reveal and the working group that will continue to work with you. Switching gears slightly, we're going to be taking out of order item 4.8 for our annual, this is our annual, right? Annual training on the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act and Proposition 209. So I welcome the State Bar's Assistant General Counsel, Brady Dewar.
Hi, everyone. It's been maybe a couple years since I've been with you, so definitely lots of new faces. My name is Brady Dewar. I am an Assistant General Counsel Supervisor in the Office of General Counsel. I used to support COAF a lot, but now you've had my colleague Raul Duran a lot, but I get a chance to work a lot with Duan and Elizabeth and the Office of Access and Inclusion and the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission. So it's nice to be back with you guys. I will try and be relatively quick. Today's topic, and many of you have had this training, I think, back in March, is on Proposition 209 and sort of shifting gears completely, the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. I'm going to put up a presentation and it should be posted and shared if it hasn't been yet. And it's a very detailed slide deck that answers a lot of questions and goes into a lot of detail that I don't think is essential for you guys to know. So I'll try in my comments just to focus on the key concepts that I think it's important for everyone to understand. And then we'll have some time for questions. So just give me a moment to share my screen. Sorry, I've 5 years of Zoom and it's still here. Okay. And I think all right, can everyone see that? Is my PowerPoint sharing now, I hope, for everybody?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's actually the present. We don't see the slide. We see your notes or that.
Let me
Presenter mode.
fix
Yeah.
that. Oh, here we go. How about that?
The same thing.
Sorry. Hit share.
There it is. Yay.
Excellent. Oh, okay. Well, that's did that slide. So we'll start with Proposition 209. Proposition 209 was a proposition passed by California voters in 1996, and it limits California government agencies' ability to pursue affirmative action type policies without comment. It was sort of a reactionary thing back in the 90s, and we have been stuck with it ever since. There was an effort a couple of elections ago to overturn it, and that failed. But in relevant part, it provides, and it's part of the California Constitution, that the state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. It's only implicated when the state government is operating public employment, public education, or public contracting, but those are very broad, and for state bar purposes, public employment and public contracting comes up. So in public hiring, Proposition 209 prohibits discrimination against or preferential treatment of anyone on the basis of any of those categories: race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin. It applies to differential treatment of both members of a majority group and members of underrepresented groups. So unlike the Equal Protection Clause of the federal and California constitutions, Proposition 209 absolutely prohibits race-based discrimination and preferential treatment. Discrimination and preferential treatment cannot be justified even by a compelling government interest. And I'll just stop here to note that to the extent there is a silver lining about Proposition 209, it's that California has been operating under it for almost 30 years now. And the Harvard decision in the California Supreme Court, as unfortunate as that was for affirmative action in education, and there are indications that it might be extended to private employers and things like that by the federal courts. Those changes are actually bringing the federal law closer to what Prop 209 actually does. So California public agencies and public universities already are complying with a more expansive federal law that would prohibit affirmative action as we know it. So that I guess is the silver lining to the extent there is any. Courts do recognize a difference between impermissible diversity activities that advantage one group over another and permissible activities that aim to broaden access for all. Those activities that aim to broaden access for all are still legal, and that's what we at the State Bar focus on in our employment efforts to promote and maximize diversity in employment. Is those efforts that don't treat any individual differently based on their membership in a category, but aim to sort of cast a broad net, create an environment that is inclusive and promotes diversity in that way. So the state courts over the years have interpreted Prop 209 and have provided some clarification of what sort of outreach, recruitment, and hiring practices are permissible. Affirmative action programs that impose specific goals and timelines for hiring of specific categories of people are not permissible. Outreach efforts that provide special notice or other benefits only to certain applicants for employment based on race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin are also impermissible. But outreach efforts designed to broaden the pool of applicants are permissible. The court clarified, a competitor does not have a constitutionally cognizable interest in limiting the pool of potential applicants with whom he or she must compete. Therefore, outreach or recruitment efforts which are designed to broaden the pool of potential applicants without reliance on an impermissible race or gender classification are not constitutionally forbidden. Another thing that is not affected by Prop 209 is research and analysis regarding employment of underrepresented groups. Race-neutral policies promoting fairness and diversity may be permissible so long as they are not used as a proxy for race. So a diverse recruitment pool may be promoted by targeting recruiting and hiring activities across diverse geographic areas, diverse educational settings, diverse practice settings. Again, as long as we're not, making the target based on an impermissible category, but are trying to achieve breadth in other ways, that's fine. And it's also fine to, target hiring towards affinity bar groups, for instance, as long as you're not solely going to them and are casting a wide net. Impermissible activities are basing any hiring, policy, or decision on race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin. That includes both numerical quota and goal setting, and individual decision making as to hiring and recruiting. And again, providing special notice or information relevant to hiring or recruiting only to members of certain enumerated categories that's not made available to everyone else would also be impermissible. More on the list of impermissible employment actions is reopening positions or otherwise adjusting hiring procedures for the purpose of obtaining more candidates from any enumerated category. So you sort of have to set your policy, but not make adjustments later, because you're not meeting some target. And you also cannot provide incentives to managers for hiring individuals from any enumerated category. Back to some more permissible activities. Again, outreach to increase the applicant pool, including posting job opportunities with minority bar associations and other minority groups, is fine, provided that that information is also shared broadly. Participating in diversity and minority job fairs, provided that such fairs do not exclude any participants on the basis of race, gender, or any other enumerated characteristic. Can target outreach to underrepresented schools and geographical areas. Those are not impermissible categories to make distinctions on. We can advertise and distribute the State Bar's missions and its diversity policies and activities, including COAF's work. And we can use diverse hiring and interview panels to create an atmosphere of inclusion and of course, diversity of perspectives in hiring decisions. Permissible to eliminate barriers to hiring, including job criteria that might disproportionately impact underrepresented groups, and that have no relevance to job performance. Also permissible to create hiring guidelines and interview questions that value diverse skills and experiences, so long as those are relevant to the position. Those could include foreign language ability, a demonstrated commitment to valuing diversity, such as experience working to increase access to the legal system, experience working in diverse workplaces or serving diverse populations, and demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity. So all of these are attributes that serve DEI purposes, but do not involve making a determination based on somebody's individual enumerated characteristics. More permissible activities. Any activities and programs to reduce unconscious bias and in-group favoritism, including trainings. Monitoring analysis of female and minority involvement and success in recruiting and hiring. Again, studies and information gathering are not impacted. And of course, ensuring a discrimination-free workplace in order to promote retention of a diverse employment body. Now, these Prop 209 guidelines or restrictions apply to the State Bar in its own hiring and in its contracting with others. As far as COAF work, we do not generally want to encourage private employers to take actions that would be illegal for us. And especially in the context of the Harvard decision and the concerns that will soon be applied to private employers, we have taken basically, for instance, in our diversity leadership SEAL program, we took the position that to reach the various rankings, you're not required to do anything that would violate these principles. We're not going to tell a private employer that wants to be aggressive and push the envelope, that they can't, do affirmative action that might come under challenge under that would be illegal under Prop 209 or might come under challenge under the new federal interpretations of equal protection and discrimination law. But in what we require and encourage, we don't require or encourage anything that would be violative. So that is the end of the Prop 209 discussion, and I want to open questions for that before we move on to Bagley-Keene.
Kristen?
Yes, thank you. I have two questions. One, you touched on a second ago. What kind of employers does Prop 209 apply to? Is it only government agencies like the bar, or is it applying to other groups?
Correct. It applies to state government agencies.
Okay, well, that makes more sense.
And state and local. I should state and local.
How do I not know this? And then the second thing is, if quotas are out, this is maybe less relevant now that I know it doesn't apply to private employers. What about a stated goal to have the workforce demographics match those of the California population or those of the legal, bar? In the sense that it's still general, but it would clearly be identifying gaps.
So I think that goal wouldn't be illegal as a policy matter, even for the state bar. We want to take efforts to, but so let me answer it sort of in two parts. For the state bar, we could still say this is a sort of a policy goal, but we couldn't make any individual hiring decisions based on that. It's sort of like, hey, we've identified it is a problem that the attorney population does not match the diversity of the California population. We should change the atmosphere so that changes, so that we can create the conditions for that to change. But we can't then make our own hiring decisions based on any individual's membership, right? So I think in general, the answer to your question is yes, that's still fine as long as we're not actually treating anybody differently based on their enumerations, because it's a policy goal rather than a quota for any particular decision. For a private employer, and I'm not an expert on this. I mostly advise on what the state bar can do. But to the best of my understanding, despite the Harvard decision, it has not yet been extended to private employers. But I imagine there are lawsuits in the works, and I understand that a lot of private employers, both anticipating where the Supreme Court is going and to avoid are trying to avoid using numerical quotas. So for that reason, in our own diversity programs, we are not requiring them to reach any particular tier. We're not asking them to do anything, number one, that we couldn't do and that might soon be illegal under federal law.
So just if I can summarize what I think I understand, if I'm running a firm and I realize, oh my goodness, we don't have anybody working here from the queer community, right? LGBTQIA, Two-Spirit, nobody. And so if we could be conscious of that, like race conscious, but we couldn't then say we're going to hire that attorney because they are trans.
First of all, we're State Bar and COAF. We're never going to actually give advice to an attorney. My understanding, though, is that they probably could right now, but they could be sued, and the way the federal courts are going, that lawsuit could be successful. Does that make sense?
Except the federal court should have no sway over an employer in California.
Well, I mean, there's the Title VII. There's
my understanding is we're trying to expand that.
Okay. I mean, I'm not an employer, right? So I'm not trying to do that, but I do think that it's important for us to understand kind of where we sit in this role, because we are trying to advise and guide the, firms in California in this capacity. But okay. Thank you very much, Brady.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would just say for that, we cannot give legal advice. And this is an area where there is increased exposure for employers. I mean, before 2023, I wouldn't have thought that Harvard's affirmative action programs should be subject to any federal restrictions, and I was wrong. So for that reason, for instance, our diversity seal program, we are designing them to be able to promote diversity, DEI, without requiring employers to do something that either we couldn't do or that would subject them potentially to liability.
Ida?
I was just, I was just thinking, I used to work in procurement and for a large firm, and I initially ran their supplier diversity program. So, it makes me just wonder with Prop 209, and any other legislation anywhere else that would, have these same restrictions, or it must, you probably have to get rid of all supplier diversity programs, because that's what supplier diversity was for, is to, change the inherent discrimination that procurement firms and large contractors were doing, where they were only selecting subcontractors who look like them. And they were giving them the constant contracts, and they were not offering them to other firms where they had people of color. And so that's one of the reasons why supply diversity was instilled in the first place, was to, help to give those smaller minority owned or women owned businesses opportunities to get subcontracts. So it seems like with Prop 209, it kind of takes that away altogether, because now contractors don't have to do it if they choose not to. Am I correct, Brady?
Was some litigation pretty much immediately after Prop 209 about various municipal procurement programs, and
Yeah.
some were found permissible, some were found not. Within the past couple of years, the State Bar actually reviewed its own procurement policies in an effort to make sure that we were able to promote diversity while staying. And again, it's more about having a broad outreach,
Yeah.
avoiding any biases, looking at permissible metrics that might reducing barriers, basically reducing barriers and improving outreach. So we're not necessarily going to the usual suspects, but making sure that we're casting a broad net so that everybody has a chance to compete.
Got it. Thank you. Great presentation.
Well, we used to be able to rely on the federal law to support that effort. I mean, with the federal contracting, there was a diversity requirement, and now that that's been gone. So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. So the next is the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, and this is really one. And there's a lot of detail on the slides, and I don't expect anybody to master any of this. But the main takeaway from this is that as a public body, COAF's discussions should happen in public. So the key thing to avoid, and I am going to go through all of the slides, is discussions about any COAF business outside of a noticed meeting. The law is actually violated if a majority of COAF were to meet or have a discussion about some issue coming before it. But it doesn't all have to be at the same place. So if one of you talks to somebody else and then they talk to another member, oh, so-and-so said so-and-so, and you're sort of outside of a meeting, networking or discussing what your decision is going to be about something coming before COAF at the next meeting, that would be a violation of Bagley-Keene. So we really try and keep all discussions of COAF business happening at a noticed meeting.
How is it different than the Brown Act, just in general?
It's almost I couldn't tell you the differences, but the Bagley-Keene is for state agencies and the Brown Act is for local agencies. And I got a lot of slides, and I'm going to kind of blow through them quickly because I've told you what you need to know. There's a lot about what needs to be in a meeting notice, but that's handled by staff. But I will go through the slides for background.
And if there are questions about Bagley-Keene as we move forward in your tenure on COAF, please just feel free to reach out to me, and then we will pull in Raul or Brady.
Yep. So yes, it has been applied to the state bar for almost 10 years now. So we're getting used to it. It might seem onerous, but it has a good purpose, and it's that we are doing the public's business, so that should be done in public. When decisions are made, the public should have notice about them and the opportunity to participate. If we're having the discussions and making the decisions before the meeting, the public does not have the same meaningful opportunity to participate. In general, when questions come up about Bagley-Keene or the Brown Act, they are construed in favor of greater openness. Lots of different bodies are covered by Bagley-Keene, and COAF is one of them. That's what you need from that slide. COAF does not have any subcommittees at this time. I don't know.
No, we don't.
Okay, so but a subcommittee created by formal action of COAF, if it had more than 2 members, would be considered a Bagley-Keene body. It is possible to create, working groups. Staff could create small working groups that would be able to meet without the Bagley-Keene restrictions. But again, staff, as they put together any working groups or smaller bodies, will notify folks if Bagley-Keene applies. We don't need to go through that. A meeting is a congregation of the majority of members of the group. So anytime a majority of the members get together to hear, discuss, or deliberate on any item within COAF jurisdiction, that is a meeting. And it doesn't have to happen, it says at the same time or place, but there is such thing as a serial meeting. I think that's next. Properly noticed meetings must be 10 days before, state date, time, and location, contact person, ADA compliance. All of this state bar staff handles when they notice our meetings. Materials distributed at a meeting, such as this presentation, do not have to be posted with the agenda, but they must be made available. So if this is not up, it will be posted on the website as an example. A meeting does not have to occur in one place. Any use of a series of communications of any kind, directly or through intermediaries, to discuss, deliberate, or take action on an item of business within COAF's jurisdiction could constitute a meeting. It's called a serial meeting. That would include telephone calls, emails. If a member of the staff had a conversation with each of you, and that could constitute a serial meeting. What is not a serial meeting is a one-way communication from staff to all of you. Another thing to remember, just relatedly, is that emails about your state bar business, about your COAF business, could be publicly disclosable. So just keep that in mind as you conduct your business. If you guys all go to a conference together, or purely social occasions where you're not discussing COAF business, those aren't a meeting, so you don't need to be concerned about a Bagley-Keene violation there. Serial meetings we discussed. Here's some more detail on that. On your emails, avoid reply all. Staff in the emailing you will try to keep people on BCCs so we can avoid a communication amongst a majority of COAF that would constitute a Bagley-Keene violation. Just as an example of how this has come up, there was a Bagley-Keene challenge to an action of a state body, and the attorney for the state body had individually contacted the members of the body to get their approval or opinion on an issue before that body. And the court found that constituted an unnoticed meeting in violation of the Bagley-Keene Act, because it was one person talking to all the members of the group and basically getting and then sharing their thoughts. So even though no member of the group communicated with each other, they were communicating with each other through a staff member, and that is not permitted. Bagley-Keene permits teleconference meetings because this is an advisory body. Remote only teleconference meetings without posting your own locations is permissible. So it's a lot easier than it is for some other boards at the State Bar. More detail. This is an advisory body, so it doesn't make direct, decisions about funding or anything like that. So therefore, all COAF members can participate remotely without noticing their location or making their location available to the public. But if you are going to be participating remotely, that needs to be indicated on the agenda at least 24 hours before the meeting. Also, Bagley-Keene requires for remote that members should be visible on camera unless that's technologically impracticable. And if so, they should report audibly why they are not appearing on camera. And at least one physical location must be noticed from which the public can participate, and one staff member must be present. All of you there in the conference room are honoring that portion of the law. And the teleconference information must be posted. And again, all of these things are details that staff will take care of when setting up the COAF meetings. No votes by secret ballot. I don't think that comes up for us. There are provisions for special meetings with less than 10-day notice for emergencies and other reasons. That typically does not come up for COAF. Public comment is required by Bagley-Keene, and staff provides for that at every meeting. Social media can create a risk of inadvertent Bagley-Keene violations. Social media comments and likes, if one person posts about something going on at COAF and another member sees that, reads that, comments on it, shares it, that is another way that a unnoticed meeting could take place. So avoid conducting COAF business on social media just as you avoid it on email and phone calls. Closed sessions, there are various grounds for closed sessions. They are exceedingly rare for COAF to do that. I don't know that I recall, but again, if there was a need for that and a justification, staff would set that up. Bagley-Keene violations, there is a substantial compliance concept applied to Bagley-Keene violations, so we won't get in trouble for highly technical violations, but to the extent that we are truly making decisions outside of notice meetings or failing to provide the public access required, there could be overturning of decisions or recommendations, reputational harm, and there is the possibility technically of civil or criminal actions, even for willful violations, could be a misdemeanor. That's never come up at the State Bar or any of our sub-entities that I know of, but just to be aware. And again, if there's any questions about Bagley-Keene, again, most of these things, especially the notice issues and setting up the meetings and whether there's a closed session, all of that is taken care of by staff. I think really that the key concept, as I mentioned at the beginning, to keep in mind is to avoid discussing any item before COAF, how you're going to vote on something, just discussing an agenda item before the meeting with your COAF colleagues, and certainly not a majority of them. That's not to say you can't have discussions about diversity in general, but as far as the COAF business, that should be discussed in notice meetings. And that's all for this portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Brady. Any immediate questions on Bagley-Keene? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Brady, so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and everyone have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
All right, we are taking our next item out of order as well. It is item 4.5, which will be led by Danielle. There's Danielle McCrae of the State Bar staff will be leading a discussion on professional civility and the impact on retention and advancement in the legal profession. Danielle?
Perfect, thank you. And this will be quite brief, really teeing up for you all the agenda item that will follow from our colleagues in Office of Professional Competence. Great, okay, yeah, so you can see slides and we'll get going. So for those that I haven't met, I'm not sure if there is anybody, but I am Danielle McCrae. I'm a lead program analyst in State Bar's Office of Access and Inclusion. I'll remind you all of where this falls in the COAF work plan, why we're talking about civility, and then chat about a working group meeting that we had in October, and also touch briefly on next steps as it relates to the civility work of COAF. So, as you may recall, the 2025 COAF work plan includes an item related to studying how professional civility impacts retention and advancement in the profession, particularly for underrepresented communities, and also making recommendations to address how to minimize these impacts. And so, to support that work, there was a civility working group meeting in October. At that meeting, we discussed some research findings. As you may recall, at the last COAF meeting, I presented some initial research on civility in the workplace in general. It was not all particularly related to the legal profession. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. But we had a brief conversation at that point, discussion of the research, and then COAF and staff came up with some additional lines of inquiry, if you will. Some of those related to things like finding more research that was related to the legal profession more specifically. And also, much of the initial research was related to gender and race and ethnicity differences. And so, wanted to dig in a little deeper if there were other marginalized groups for which there was research on civility and impacts in the workplace. So, in chatting with the working group and just digging around on the internet some more, found some additional studies that help speak to some of that. So, for example, this is just a few of them. There's a 2018 study on women experiencing more incivility in federal courts, and really from a whole host of sources, unfortunately, attorneys, judges, court personnel, marshals, security officers. And most of those women that experienced that incivility responded with avoidance, denial, minimization, which is fairly consistent with existing research. Also, there was a study on public employees from racial minorities and with physical disabilities being more likely to experience incivility in the workplace. Again, those uncivil behaviors were coming from a couple different sources, but most often from coworkers. Those improper behaviors, incivil behaviors from coworkers were most influential, on the relationship between incivility and distress impacted or felt as an impact. And then there was also a question at COAF on, what can organizations do about this? And so did some digging on what existing research there was as it related to that, and found a study on some organizational provided resources can reduce the association between incivility and turnover intentions, folks' intention to leave the workplace as a result of that incivility. Also at the COAF meeting, at the working group meeting, discussed other resources that might be helpful for future data, like the SHRM organization, as well as state agency EAPs or employee assistance programs, as potential sources of additional data. And then in terms of next steps, what our colleague Kathy will be talking about shortly in the next item is, you may recall, the State Bar and a civility task force had several different recommendations related to civility and how that might be improved in the legal profession. And several of those recommendations went up to the Supreme Court of California a couple years ago. We recently got the Supreme Court's ruling or responses to those recommendations, which Kathy will talk about shortly. But in response to that feedback, the Office of Professional Competence is updating a civility toolkit for attorneys. And we have asked for OANI and COAF to be able to provide feedback on that toolkit as it relates to the goals of this body and disproportionate impacts on retention and advancement for marginalized groups. And so our OANI staff will coordinate with OPC staff and the Civility Working Group as appropriate to provide feedback on the sections that relate to the topics of interest to COAF. So that is the extent of my slides, but happy to take any questions or comments at this time.
Thank you, Danielle. And just a reminder that Kathy will be going more into depth on that, some of that information from the Office of Professional Competence. So just for those of you who may have questions or comments for Danielle, you might want to also think about engaging those with Kathy. Not to stifle you, but just to share that we have a little bit more information coming. But does anyone have anything specifically for Danielle before we move into Kathy's presentation? Don't see anything on the screen. Interesting. All right, Kathy, I thought I saw your face. You're sharing screen, so I'm going to assume that you're here.
Yes, I'm here.
There she is.
Great.
Yes. Good morning, and thank you, Danielle, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with the with COAF today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide a brief update on the Supreme Court's recent order on civility, discuss the State Bar's implementation work, and identify areas where COAF's, excuse me, I'm coming in between meetings, expertise is essential. So a major focus today is going to be the Civility Toolkit rebuild, a new e-learning course that we have planned for next year, and how both will address the connection between bias and incivility. So in September of 2025, the Supreme Court approved amendments to Rule of Court 9.7. And so beginning in 2026, all active licensees and special admissions attorneys will be required to affirm the civility oath on an annual basis. The Supreme Court declined the proposed amendments to the rules of professional conduct, and those were rules 1.2, 8.4, and a proposed rule 8.4.2. Now, the court cited vagueness and First Amendment concerns in terms of those. However, the court did direct us to study the impact of the civility MCLE requirement and to review case law where incivility has influenced attorney fee awards, and how we might be able to incorporate that into the rules of professional conduct. So that order is really guiding the next phase of our work and really shapes the new civility education framework. So in response to implement the court's directive, multiple teams at the State Bar, including the Office of Professional Competence, the Committee on Professional Responsibility and Conduct, the Office of Chief Trial Counsel, and the Office of Research and Statistics are coordinating closely. Now, the interim rule 2.3, that's now in place to ensure that the licensees are meeting that annual declaration requirement, and that will start during the 2026 renewal cycle. So the Civility Toolkit rebuild is in progress, and what it's going to do is it'll replace our current website that has attorney guidelines of civility and professionalism. And it's really going to provide more modern and accessible training tools. So next year, what we plan to do is convert this core civility content into a self-paced e-learning course to promote consistency statewide. We're also going to be collaborating to develop metrics to measure participation, MCLE provider trends, and attorney feedback related to the civility MCLE. Now, the Civility Toolkit will present the updated rule requirements, current case law, and practical examples in a 1-hour presenter-ready interactive program. So this will include built-in engagement, alignment with adult learning principles, and integration with the Civility MCLE requirement. And then beginning next year, what we're going to do is translate and kind of transform those materials into a self-paced e-learning course. And this will provide a standardized learning experience that attorneys can access on demand and that courts can order in civil litigants to attend. So COAF's input is going to be especially important during the script development for that course, particularly for segments addressing bias conduct and its relationship to incivility. And so our invitation to COAF is really, well, let me back up. The Civility Task Force, which I'm sure many of you are aware of that report and have reviewed it, it was really clear that biased behavior often appears as incivility in the practice of law. So we really want to ensure that the toolkit and our e-learning courses address this connection directly and responsibly. So what I'm asking for is COAF volunteers to review the bias-related portions of the Civility Toolkit as we develop them. And then once we begin scripting our e-learning course next year, we will also like your input and review to ensure that we have clarity, accuracy, and alignment with access and fairness principles. So that's really all that I have for you today, but I'm open to questions. And I'm really excited to work with COAF on this. I know we worked together to create our imposter syndrome toolkit. And so I just see this as a next step in kind of getting that information out and really ingraining it in the education work that the State Bar does.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I remember working with you on that. It was such a pleasure. Any immediate questions or comments for Kathy? Or Danielle, I suppose, as those go together. Okay. I encourage you all to be thinking about this this afternoon when we discuss our work plan for 2026. Perhaps we might see ways to include this connection and this work in our work plan. Am I correct in remembering that we already have a working group on civility?
Yeah, we do.
In civility, and so
Yeah.
that group may be what engages with Kathy as well, but I encourage you all to think about that for our work plan discussion.
I just
Yes,
have, I have one
Tristan?
comment. By the way, hi Kathy, it's so great to see you.
Hi, Tristan.
I don't think I was here the last time you addressed COAF, but I worked with Kathy when she was at the Judicial Council and really respect you and I'm delighted to see you here, which I know you've been here a while, sorry. My concern, I think we're addressing attorneys using incivility against each other. What about when judges do this, right? Like my immediate thought is we could have judges who are, saying to a Black woman attorney, oh, you're being incivil because there is this perception, right? That you're not allowed to be angry or upset. Are we also prepared or maybe working with the Judicial Council or the CGA on how to kind of address that from that? I mean, it's much harder when it comes from the bench, right? So I just wanted to bring that one up, that you've got higher standards for people and women of color and the trans community, et cetera. So.
Yes, that's a really great question. And so part of the work that we're doing next year, including this toolkit, we are working with, and we've already met with the Civility Task Force, the previous task force members of that, and representatives from the California Judges Association. And so their work is really going to be incorporated into this and providing opportunities for judges to really rely on the case law and the guidelines. And they've really indicated an interest in being able to order people to our civility course that we're going to be creating next year. And so I do think that there is an opportunity for them to engage with us. Of course, the rules don't apply to them the same way they have the judicial canons that apply to them. And they are doing their own work in terms of civility. And I know I'm also working on a few programs with judicial officers in that regards. And so we are engaging the judges the best we can. And I would also encourage this group, if there's other education or if there's other things that you want to put on regarding civility, including the judges, or if you have judges that might be good representatives, to let me know so that we can bring them into the fold and really figure out, because this is going to be a big theme for next year. This is, a high visibility project, and I think we all are aware of how incivility has permeated all levels of society at this point. And so we want to do the best we can to really continue the legacy of our profession being kind of, more civil, or being a model for other people in society.
Fantastic. Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Kathy or Danielle, I suppose? All right. Well, thank you both for your really hard work, Kathy. It's heartening that your office wants to have COAF's engagement and explore that direct connection. So thank you for engaging with us on that. And I'm looking forward to how that's going to be in our work plan and how we'll all continue to work together with that working group with you. Next on our agenda is actually our lunch break. And so we'll just be about 5 minutes early going in. So are we okay to come back 5 minutes early, or do you want to come back at what do you want to?
It's up to you. We can come back at 1.
All right, we'll come back at 1. We do need to have a roll call upon return. Am I correct? After lunch? I remember it being done before, but I don't remember if that's.
I will check. We will check when we come back.
Okay, thank you. So I look forward to seeing you all back at 1 Pacific time, just in case anyone's traveling. And enjoy your lunches. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From lunch, thank you all. I do believe we need to return back with a roll call. Elizabeth, can you lead that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Adebo Mary?
Yemi, I'm present.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Chakshi?
I'm present.
De Leon? Absent. Gray?
Present.
Higgins?
Present.
Rosario?
Present.
View?
Present.
Zakir? Absent. Davis?
Present.
Guinness?
Present.
8 present, and we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, proceeding through our agenda, we are now at item 4.2, an update and discussion on the Leadership SEAL program, which will be led by Danielle.
Great. I'll pull up the slides for that now. Wonderful. Okay. Welcome everybody. I hope you had a good lunch break. I am back to provide a quick update on the DEI Leadership SEAL program. For those that are newer to COAF, a quick reminder, the DEI Leadership SEAL program is a program the State Bar administers that is available to legal employers that employ California licensed attorneys, really across the legal sector. So law firms, legal aid, nonprofits, government agencies, law schools, in-house and corporate counsel, etc. And it's a program that recognizes, employers that commit to and implement at least 5 of a list of 10 action items related to increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. Brady also referenced the program when we were talking about Prop 209 before lunch. And in the program, if an employer commits to implementing at least 5 of those action items, they are referred to as a committed employer. And then once they have actually implemented and demonstrated implementation of 5 or more of those action items, they are then recognized as a DEI Leadership SEAL recipient. And in the program, they can also there's a couple different tiers of recognition for our SEAL recipients, depending on the number of action items they demonstrate implementation of. So as you all may recall from the last COAF meeting and prior meetings earlier this year, the 2025 application cycle was delayed for the program this year. Typically, in a typical year, applications will open in January and close in March. We'll spend much of the spring reviewing those applications and then make announcements late spring, early summer. However, given changing federal administration landscape as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We paused the program earlier this year for a review to make sure that we as a state bar, COAF, stakeholders both in and out of the program, the Board of Trustees, were comfortable with the program in what we were calling it, how we were talking about it, what we were asking employers to do to participate in that program. So we wrapped up that review in the summer and then opened up our 2025 application window in, I believe, late June. And that application window closed in late September. So we have recently finished review of those applications that came in and actually announced our new committed employers and seal recipients earlier this week. So the web page is now updated with those new employers, and the press release for that, I believe, went out Wednesday afternoon. In the 2025 cycle, we did get slightly fewer applicants than we have in the past, which is not necessarily surprising given the current environment, but still we were bummed to see, for lack of a better word. But in this cycle, we did see 6 employers receive seal recipient status. So 5 of those were committed employers that moved up. They demonstrated implementation of at least 5 of those action items. And 1 was a new employer into the program altogether. And in that initial application also demonstrated implementation of at least 5 of those items, which was great. We had 5 existing seal recipients advance tiers. So I mentioned earlier, we have gold, silver, and bronze tiers based on the number of action items implemented. We had some employers move up, which is fantastic. We love to see. And then we also received applications from 4 employers to enter our committed employer pool. So the DEI Leadership SEAL program now includes a total of 85 employers, 61 SEAL recipients, and 24 committed employers. As a point of reference, our high water mark was 99, I believe, right around 100. So we have seen some attrition with the changing landscape, but still very happy to have 85 employers in the program at this time. And in terms of next steps, what we're working on now is really outreach ahead of the 2026 application cycle. So we are getting back on our typical application cycle, timeline, cadence. And so we do plan to reopen the application next month in January for 2026. And so the working group met earlier this fall to discuss outreach efforts ahead of that application cycle. Talked about things like identifying additional local and affinity bar associations that we can do outreach to, and particularly doing more outreach to in-house counsel and corporate attorneys who might be less familiar with the program. We feel like nonprofit legal aid organizations, particularly those that the State Bar funds, are fairly well aware of this program, of its existence at least, and we've been gaining traction in the law firm space, but some of those corporate counsel and in-house counsel attorneys may just be less familiar with this program or not realize that it is available to them as well. So that is an area that we're particularly hoping to target with outreach. And to that end, staff are drafting a one-pager on the program to help with that outreach as COAF members or other stakeholders want to help us get the word out on this program. So the next slide is just discussion opportunity for you all to ask questions. If you have other ideas of outreach we should be considering, or if any members of the working group want to add to anything that I just said, happy to stop talking for a moment and let others share.
Thank you, Danielle. Any questions, comments?
I have one.
Yes, Tristan.
Shock. Thank you very much, Danielle, for that. We're starting to reach out to in-house corporate attorneys. Do they have to have a legal department of 10 attorneys in order to participate, or how is that going to function? With the seal requires 10 people, right?
No, the seal does not require 10 people. There's 10 action items, 5 of which they need to implement.
Right.
But we don't have a size restriction on the program itself. And in terms of how this would function for in-house corporate counsel, we've seen organizations handle it differently. So we've had some, and even government agencies, not just in-house corporate counsel, either that office only can apply for the seal, and then the action items would need to apply to just the general counsel's office or whatever the equivalent is, or they can apply for the entire organization and apply, therefore, the various action items to their whole corporation if they wish to.
And are we also reaching out to solo practitioners? Because I thought that you couldn't do it if you were a solo practitioner.
So solos, yeah, so that's a great question, and something that we're talking about internally too. So solos, I'm not sure, based because of what the action items are, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for solos of, quite literally one or two employers to be applicable. But we don't have like a cap that it like must be greater than 10, for example. So I think it's a point of discussion with employers that want, smaller employers that want to participate. I think we'd be open to chatting about what that would look like and how that would make sense for their organization.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
I do think it makes sense for us to do that.
Como?
Yeah, so I noticed a few of the previous SEAL recipients are no longer on the list of SEAL recipients. I have two questions related to that. Are some of those folks not on there because they didn't submit the materials they needed to progress in the program? And then I guess my second question is related to that. Have you surveyed the folks who are no longer participating as to why they're not participating? Because I can kind of see two categories. One category might be people who just didn't have the bandwidth to continue, and then the other category might be people who are actively dropping out for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So, for SEAL recipients, they have an attestation that they submit annually that just verifies a test that they still have the action items implemented, and those were due in July. And so for any SEAL recipients from which we did not receive that attestation, we did do outreach to try to identify exactly that. Like why are they not submitting these materials? Is it just it fell off their radar, or it's a bandwidth issue, or we have contact information for the wrong person, with turnover, or is this a conscious choice that they have chosen not to move forward with the program because of A, B, or C reason in the current environment? And so we did do proactive outreach to those organizations. We did not get responses from all of them, but it was a mixed bag. Some folks immediately were like, "Oh, we're so sorry. We had turnover, this slipped off the radar. Yes, please, we'd love to get our materials in." Whereas we did hear from several that they were choosing not to move forward with the program because of their organization's risk tolerance or position in various environments. And then there's some we just didn't hear back from at all. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. We didn't do a survey per se, but did do that proactive outreach and made ourselves available to set up a call with anybody that was open to doing so.
Thank you, Danielle. Any other questions or comments on the leadership seal? Okay, well, Danielle, please make sure to share with us that one pager when you have it and when the applications are open, so that hopefully as COAF members, we can encourage employers in our networks to consider engaging with this really valuable program. Our next item is 4.3, which is also, Danielle, an updated discussion on the Diversity Summit.
Great. This will also be a pretty brief item, I think, unless you all have a lot of questions to chat about. But wanted to give you a very quick preview of an upcoming event next week and then some planning for 2026. So we typically, as I think most of you know, do 2 diversity summits each year. We typically have a longer form in-person full day or nearly full day event in the summer. And then we have a shorter virtual summit in the winter near the end of the year as kind of a final touch point before the holidays with folks to reconvene. And so that virtual diversity summit is taking place next Tuesday, December 9th. You all should have gotten the save the date and invite for that, but if you didn't, please let us know. We have about 85 registrants expected, which we're super excited about. And the event will include a panel discussing advancing equity and inclusion for underrepresented groups with a focus on people with disabilities, the LGBTQIA community, and first generation professionals. These are groups that we feel like we haven't given as much time and discussion to or around in events lately, and that folks have been asking for, and there's a lot here that's ripe for discussion. So we're excited for that. And then after the panel, we will have concurrent breakout rooms to extend the conversation on each of those three groups. So when folks register, we ask them to select which topic they would like to spend more time talking about with the speaker and other attendees. Shalak will be moderating that panel for us. Tristan is one of our panelists, so we are super excited for that conversation next week. And then we are also, believe it or not, starting to think about and plan for that June 2026 event. The in-person events are typically larger, and like I said, a full day or nearly full day. Those are typically 75 to 90 attendees or so. We are planning for that to be the Thursday before the June COAF meeting, which is where we've typically slotted it the last couple years, but that would fall on Thursday, June 25 in San Francisco. We'd like to do this event in San Francisco. And staff will work with the working group to identify and refine topics and speakers. I also am happy to hear if you all have thoughts now. One topic that we have been chatting about, both as staff and with the working group, is potentially spending more time on attorneys with disabilities and neurodiversity, since that's a topic that has gained some interest and we have just frankly not spent much time talking about yet in our diversity summits. So I don't remember if I put a discussion slide. Yes, I did. So happy to hear questions or feedback, and also if you have any topic ideas for the June summit or areas you think we should explore for that, happy to hear those too.
Omo?
This is more of a question. My understanding is that it's sort of a limited group of people that is invited to the summit. How do you choose that group? Is it folks that are involved in state bar efforts on a volunteer basis, or is it some other criteria?
Yeah, great question. So Diversity Summit invite list is typically it's fairly large, frankly, but it is folks that have interacted with the State Bar on DEI programming in the past. And so it's the DEI Leadership Seal employers, it's COAF members, but also other employers or stakeholders, associations that we've had some contact with our DEI work. Elizabeth, I'd invite you to chime in on some of the work that might predate me that's like outside the scope of Leadership Seal, for example.
Right. So I think initially when we had our first diversity summit in 2018, though, we invited members of leadership and affinity bar associations to join us, and kind of the invite list for our summits has kind of spread through word of mouth. And then once we developed more of our DEI programming, we targeted the invitation to those folks. So I think, we have wanted the audience for the diversity summits to be DEI professionals in the legal space, since that is, our purview and where we hope to make the most impact.
Anyone else?
So I have a thought on a topic. One of the things that I was asked about this year, and it was very few, was help navigating employees in the workplace that were struggling with Israel and Palestine. And I wonder if it would make sense to include a religious discussion or a cultural discussion. Because I think there are more than one employers who are looking to help navigate that, right? Like, is no discussion allowed? Can we have the discussion? What kind of guidance can they give? I don't know if that fits very well with neurodiversity and disability or abilities. I'm not suggesting this would be instead, but just one more topic that I would attend.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I know that Danielle is open to receiving topic suggestions by email throughout the year. So please, if things come up or good speakers come up that you may encounter, read about, engage with in your own work, please share those with Danielle because they're just always mining for good people then or later on. And as I did earlier, I encourage all of you to register for and attend Tuesday's summit. It will be virtual. You can be having it playing while doing your work or other things. So hopefully you will be there on Tuesday. I believe it will be a good experience. Thanks, Danielle, for all your hard work.
Thank you.
All right. Erica will be leading 4.6, a presentation and discussion on research related to less frequently considered forms of diversity. I do want to just asterisk before Erica begins that as comments and thoughts of other research that might spring off of what she presents come to you, perhaps also hold them because right after that, we're going to be talking about our work group. So if things come up that you're like, it would be really good for us to spend for us to spend some time on that. Erica might spur some thoughts for you that can dovetail quite nicely into that conversation as well. But Erica, welcome back. Hopefully you had a good lunch and thanks for joining us again this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Yes, so thank you. Happy to provide just a quick update on research related to less frequently considered forms of diversity. So I believe at the last COAF meeting, we provided an update on research that staff has done thus far related to disability, veteran status, and first generation law student status as well. And so we still have those topics kind of on deck that we've looked into. We have been thinking about how we might build on that information of what we learned during our research, and are going to meet again with the working group in the near future. That would be Komal and Tristan to talk about potentially developing some of this information into briefs that could be distributed in terms of understanding these groups and how the legal profession, may be inclusive or not. And so I think that's one avenue that we're pursuing is looking to start developing some of that research into materials for distribution. And then the other is that we do still have some other topics on the list that COAF had generated previously that we haven't addressed yet. Some of them we discussed last time, they might be a little bit more difficult just because there isn't a ton of research existing on the topics. For example, I think religion was raised as one, or communication style. So we are open to continuing to look into other topics, and I would welcome kind of the suggestions for priorities or other areas that we might find existing data. Currently, we've been using a lot of either state bar data or national level data from the American Bar Association or the National Association of Law Placement. So that's pretty much the update in addition to some of the great topics that are going to be covered during the diversity summits. We're thinking of producing written materials as well. That would be something that folks could access independently.
Thank you, Erica. Anyone, suggestions or comments, support for Erica and this future research?
I had a question. As we talked about geographical stuff today around, where attorneys are practicing and stuff like that, would it make sense to have something that talks about, geographic diversity and how particular areas are impacted based on their reach and their access, because access is so important. The reason why I bring that up is because when I worked for the American Dental Education Association and I was the SVP for DEI, our dentists that were in rural areas or decided to work in rural areas really had to deal with a whole bunch of different types of cultural issues to get past. And so that geographical area, whether you're, urban or you're just suburbs or you are rural, and, those things played a big, it made a huge difference about access. And so with the court, Superior Court, we just started launching this effort to have this big, I don't even know what you call it. It's not like a van, but sort of like a party truck almost. And we're going to use this to go into areas where people have a lack of access to getting to um, court for different things. So it's called Court Connect. And so that's our way of moving into areas where people do not have the ability. And frankly, these days, they're even some of them are scared to come to court because of ICE. So I'm just thinking of that geographic diversity issues from an access standpoint. So that's the only thing that came to mind. Thank you.
May I respond to that?
Yeah, of course.
I just wanted to note that earlier this year, the State Bar published our 2024 California Justice Gap study, where we did look at the attorney desert, particularly in rural areas, and so that might be of interest. And then I believe at our September meeting, we did have a presentation on attorney data in rural areas, and you will see when we have our 2026 work plan discussion, we are going to try to dive deeper into those issues, and so I think that would fit nicely there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Como?
Yeah, so this is kind of a finer point, but I feel like it might impact research. I think I've received a lot of questions the last few years about just what first generation means. For some people, particularly when you're talking about the law school context, I always thought about it in terms of, just generally you're the first in your family to go to college. But we, at one of my past employers, we had a fellowship program, and several people who applied to the fellowship said, I'm the first generation to go to law school, which was not really my definition of first generation. My definition was first to go to college. So wondering if it might be useful to sort of define it as we do research. And I'm not sure what other people's experience with that is, but I feel like there might be some clarification to be made around what first generation is.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think in the research that we've done that it is separated out at that level for some sources. So some of them do make that distinction of folks who, are the first in their family to go to college and then also law school. And then they also have data for folks who are what they called continuing or first gen JD students. So they might have a parent or who has completed college but not gone to law school. So we do have some of that data broken out in that way, and we can be specific in what we're talking about when we kind of get to that level. Yeah.
Thank you, Kamal. I think I've been seeing it become a best practice on the admissions side for law schools to ask that question in two parts, because they were saying just, are you first generation? And then there were some people who were just saying yes. And like you said, there was some confusion. So now asking, are you first generation to go to college? And then also, are you first generation to go to law school? And for what those implications may be. Erica, I was going to say that one part for a future study that might be interesting to you, it was actually spurred because I received a survey request from the ABA, which is looking specifically at mental health and women's mental health in the legal profession. And so with mental health and the rise in sort of considered mental health challenges and accommodations, not the legal technical definition of accommodations, but I mean the things that our profession may be doing to accommodate and provide more wellness and mental health support, that might be a space to consider. I know some of that might be under the neurodivergent, but not necessarily. So it may be some good research for us for the future.
I got that survey as well.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Erica? Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Erica, for the research you and your team do. We really appreciate it. This is normally the point in our meeting where we would open for conversations about additional initiatives that the COAF wants to do. And what we would like to take the liberty of doing is actually combining items 4.9, 10, and 11 together to be a conversation, a larger conversation for us, reviewing our 2025 work plan as we develop and approve our 2026 work plan. And that should hopefully include any additional initiatives or work that we think would be important, some of which may even have come up today. And so Elizabeth is going to take the lead, I believe, in walking us through that work plan. The way it's structured is we essentially do a track change on the 2025 to create the 2026 work plan. So that's why we're combining all of those together. So please, if there are things that have been of interest to you as we go through that you don't see, chime in, share those thoughts. Let's develop a work plan that we will feel really excited next year about saying, look how much we got accomplished and all the good work that COAF has done. That's really based around what we discussed and approved today. So, Elizabeth.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen. A caveat, my laptop is being very finicky right now. So Shannon is ready to reshare if my laptop dies. So we'll see how far we can get. Okay, as Shalak mentioned, we typically when we talk about our work plan for the following year, we'll walk through kind of the document that is our existing work plan and use track changes to add or subtract items. As a reminder, the Board of Trustees does approve COAF's work plan each year. Typically, they approve it in one of their earlier meetings in the year. Last year, or this year rather, in 2025, it was approved quite late, just a few months ago. But I anticipate that we would be back onto the regular timing for 2026. So the work plan begins with COAF's charge, and I believe you are all familiar with it, so we won't spend a lot of time here. And just we'll move straight through to the work plan items. And just so you understand how the work plan is laid out, we have our work plan activity on the left, any deadline that we might have, whether it might need to go to a board or a board committee, and if so, when. And then how our work plan activity ties back to the State Bar strategic plan goals, strategies, and implementation steps. So the State Bar has a strategic plan. I believe it's goes from it's a 5-year plan. It goes from 2022 to 2027 currently, and it has 4 goals, and then each goal has strategies and then implementation steps. So our first one is related to reviewing data annually on violations of Rule of Professional Conduct 8.3 and 8.4.1. 8.4.1 we referenced earlier, and based on that review, make any recommendations on potential interventions or actions to the Board of Trustees. And so this is an item that typically our Chief Trial Counsel will come and provide data and answer questions. And I think the last time he joined us was in September.
Is this an evergreen item? Is it always part of the charge?
It has been in the last several years. Both of these rules are newer rules, and COAF had an interest in tracking whether there was any disproportionate impact.
And everyone is aware of what rules 8.3 and 8.4.1 are, just to ensure? Okay.
Okay, great.
I wouldn't mind being reminded.
So as I mentioned, a really quick summary of 8.4.1 is attorneys and law firms shall not discriminate. That's like a very abbreviated version. I really encourage folks to seek out the rules specifically, and I have to look up 8.3 so I don't misstate it. So I will do that now.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking that was the tattletale rule.
Yes, that is the required reporting.
Yeah.
Duty to report certain misconduct by another lawyer. Thank you. So you already knew.
Well, I think generally it makes sense to restate some of those things,
Sure.
especially because we have members that aren't lawyers, and even those of us that are lawyers, we can't, even if we've reviewed in advance, sometimes it's nice to have a quick refresher.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving forward, this was the item follow-up on the study on racial disparities in the attorney discipline system. So you'll see this is struck because COAF did provide input and feedback to the study of racial disparities in the attorney discipline system that was published earlier this year. I anticipate when our Office of Chief Trial Counsel and Research and Statistics replicates the study in the future, we would put it back onto the work plan for COAF's input and feedback.
Great.
So the next item is related to the California bar exam. So provide input and feedback on development of new California bar exam, including questions, modality, and equitable testing practices. A lot of our items related to the bar exam are holdovers from the last year, but as we know that because of the issues related to the February exam, we didn't have the opportunity to provide input and feedback. We could leave this here. My understanding is that there wouldn't be any changes to the California bar exam in the near term, but we could leave it here for future or take it off and then add it back in when there is more movement in developing a new bar exam.
Any thoughts or feedback on this item in particular and whether or not it should remain or be removed and then re-added if needed in the future? Tristan?
My thought would be, unless there's some procedural benefit to having it here, like it gives us some jurisdiction to comment, I think it'd be better to take it off, because it's one of those things that at least I kind of feel like I wish we were working on, but we're not. So why don't we get rid of it? And then when we're invited or when it's appropriate, we can add it back on.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I second that. It seems to make most sense.
Is there some type of benefit with having it here? Say there's something unforeseen that happens this upcoming year. If this is not here, would we be able or invited to give comment or
I don't
engage?
think you would be
or...
precluded if something unforeseen happened and COAF's input was sought after. I don't think that would preclude participation.
Okay. Given that, any other comment or thoughts about striking this from the work plan for this year? All right, I think we strike it for this year.
Okay.
Knowing that, again, if something were to happen unforeseen, changes were being made, that we could seek to or provide feedback.
Okay, great. So the next three items, and I apologize if they don't all fit nicely on the screen right now, are very closely related. So it's continuing to review attorney census data, reviewing the attorney census survey and making recommendations related to questions related to retention, advancement, and compensation and satisfaction, and then reviewing findings from the inactive attorney survey and provide feedback and recommendations. So this is all related to the attorney diversity data that we collect both through the attorney census and the inactive attorney survey. And so this is, even though we do have dates here, it is work that we do every year. So I would recommend keeping that here for now.
Agreed. I see some nods at the bottom of the screens that I'm going to take as agreement.
Great. And so this is related to the guiding principles in exam development to minimize potential bias in bar exam questions. Several years ago, COAF, in partnership with the Committee of Bar Examiners, developed these guiding principles after a study found that while there was not significant disparities between for takers in some of the questions, there were some bar exam questions that needed further study. After studying those questions, these guidelines, these guiding principles were developed to help those developing bar exam questions to, for example, use less jargon in their questions, or perhaps not have triggering events in fact patterns and that sort of thing. So COAF had wanted to encourage our Office of Admissions to review the impact of this, but because of issues with the FIBR exam and potential changes to the bar exam in the past, I'm recommending that we take it off for now and then add it back in. I have a note here, perhaps in 5 years, but it could definitely be earlier, just given kind of what's happening with the bar exam currently.
Any thoughts around that, Tristan?
It seems like a sister goal to the one that we struck, so I think the same reasons for striking this one would also exist. I would be in favor of that.
Thank you. I see other nods on the bottom of the screen, so I think we take that as agreement to strike.
Can I have a clarifying question?
Of course.
Just about the slides. The strategy column, that's taken straight from the state bar's
strategic plan.
So it's not something we have any input over?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I mean, when the board does their strategic planning, any member is welcome, any person is welcome to provide feedback to the board, but not currently, in this process.
It's just what's particularly as related to race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. I'd love to see that broadened, but just for future. Thank you for explaining.
So this next item is invite researchers or other experts to make presentations to COAF at minimal cost to the State Bar to assist COAF in identifying issues in the pipeline to the profession and to make recommendations on addressing pipeline to the profession issues. So I mean, this is an ongoing activity. We haven't had any presentations in recent times, but that is always an option. Many years ago, when this item was added to the work plan, the COAF members just really wanted to be sure that they would be able to, I think, tackle more novel issues, emerging issues that were coming up.
Yeah, I like leaving this, especially when thinking about some of our earlier conversations around AI and some of those emerging things and recruiting and some of those emerging things. I think this gives us space to ask Elizabeth and staff, or if we identify speakers who can help broaden our knowledge, to have them be brought to future meetings and have time set aside for that. Again, I'll just highlight, if we start to think of people, the at minimal cost part of this, that we'll want to just be mindful of what COAF's range may be in being able to have some of those presenters come and engage with us as a council.
I love that one. Are you recommending we keep it as well?
Yes.
I think that makes perfect sense.
And then our next one is partnering with law schools, law firms, and other key stakeholders to support outreach to underrepresented communities regarding law school pipeline to profession and retention and advancement in the profession. So I think this is probably will be related to a lot of the kind of research, and now that we're beginning to complete some of the research that COAF has identified, making sure, you're the question that Shalak asked earlier about how we're going to share out the AI and bias brief and that sort of thing.
I think this remains excellent and evergreen. And I will say, I think with the changes and potential impact of financial aid for the future will remain even more important for the State Bar to support outreach to underrepresented communities, to encourage them to continue to seek out law school.
And it's also related to some of the things we were talking about with Erica and Sylvia, I think earlier, about some of the ways we could work with the law schools to help. This seems like this should always be there.
So our next item is discussing ways to partner with California Lawyers Association to advance DEI in the legal profession. We have in the past had a liaison from California Lawyers Association to COAF, but in recent years that has not been consistent. This is on the work plan kind of to facilitate that. I'm open to discussing whether we think that this is useful. I do think, maybe perhaps some of the items that we were talking about related to research, like things with solos and small firms, CLA might be a good partner because they have access to those attorneys.
Could it perhaps be broadened to have discussed ways to partner with California Lawyer Association and other bar associations or bar groups? I might not be using the right.
Local and affinity bar associations.
Yes, thank you for the terminology. Just to broaden our space a little bit, so in case we don't have a liaison to have conversation with.
Sorry for the scrolling.
No.
I have a question, May. Has been addressed a long time ago, but because of the separation between the bar or the state bar and the CLA, how closely should we be partnering with any diversity committees and whatnot on the CLA?
That's a great question. When the state bar separated the sections and those sections became California Lawyers Association, the board was really intentional in kind of the space that the state bar takes it up in DEI. And so we really wanted to focus our work in collecting and analyzing data and convening people, because we felt that that was kind of where our strengths were, and kind of larger policy issues. For example, like having a DEI lens in looking at the disparity study in the attorney discipline, publishing the diversity report card, having a DEI lens in developing those guiding principles for bar exam question development that I mentioned earlier. Kind of the larger policy or more larger systemic impact is what the board is looking for. So I think in partnering with California Lawyers Association or local and affinity bar associations, we would need to be very clear that, like, I don't think COAF or the state bar would necessarily be putting on programming or recruiting attorneys to do things, but we would, be supportive in terms of identifying issues, analyzing the wealth of data that we collect from attorneys, and providing support in that way.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Carlos?
Yeah. I think it helped me understand where the line is. So thanks.
Right. So I think an example, Carlos, would be if we were to do some more research on solos and small firms, perhaps we would, and we might come up with some recommendations. Perhaps there is, solos and small firms should do X to advance DEI in their workplaces. I think then we would share that with California Lawyers Association and hope that they would, share it with their members and solo and small firm section members, and develop their own programming to maybe implement that.
Tristan?
As part of my former role with CLA, I definitely noted some animosity on this particular issue and the division. I wonder if it might make sense to just reframe the goal a little bit, like provide resources to CLA as requested, kind of that idea, like, or allow CLA to be windows to each other, right? So if they want us to comment, or if we want them to comment, that we might reach out. It might be, I know the leadership's changed significantly, but there was definitely a strong sentiment like, hey, the bar sent us away, so they should stay away on this issue. But it's clear that we have an understanding of the separation, and that we have data they might need or want. So maybe just some kind of I know it's political, but a little reframing might be helpful, as opposed to like, hey, we want a liaison to come here and sit with us. But if you would like access, here's what we'd like to share with you. It might go some ways to smoothing that.
Sure.
But I like the goal there. I think we should be more connected as long as we can officially under our charter.
So perhaps let's discuss ways to provide resources and support
Beautiful.
to California Lawyers Association and local affinity bar associations.
I love that.
Because again, I'm thinking about even the briefs, as earlier stated, that could be a wealth of support to members in those organizations. Some of the information, even the PLP program, and using those organizations to let employers know that they could be hiring PLLs, right? So how does everyone feel about this as rewritten? Nods, comments? I see nods, okay. And a thumbs up, thank you, Tita, for that doctoral thumbs up.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
So this next one is related to the state. The State Bar has a brochure, which feels like, I don't know if I've seen a brochure in a very long time, but it is like a media piece, I think, that we use to encourage the pipeline into the profession. So it's Be a Lawyer, Make a Difference, and it showcases diverse attorneys in diverse roles. And so the recommendation here is to review it every 2 years, just to see if we need to make any updates or revisions.
And I think 2026 would be the year for review, correct? Because I don't recall it being reviewed in 2025.
It was reviewed in 2025.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't on that working group,
Yeah.
I guess.
So my recommendation is to review it in 2027.
Okay.
So I can, since that is my recommendation, we can take it off for 2026 and then put it back on for 27.
Could we
Yeah.
put in lieu, distribute and publicize via social media and other outlets the diversity briefs and other research so that it's part of our plan to get the great work that Sylvia and Eric and and those teams are doing out and forward?
Sure.
So
we're striking the Be a Lawyer, Make a Difference part and putting in the diversity briefs, just swapping out what we're publicizing and distributing.
So encouraging COAF to be sort of the amplification
for the diversity briefs and
advocate for those things. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. And then I will strike
this
part.
Yeah.
And we'll add it back in next year. Great.
Is that good with everyone? I see nods. Okay.
So I'm just changing the date for it to be next year.
Okay.
Great.
The next item is the Law School Assembly. The Law School Assembly is a convening of various law school stakeholders. We often join those meetings to talk about kind of various topics that COAF has been working on. For example, several years ago, COAF members helped work on some rules related to accreditation for California accredited law schools, and so we participated in those forums to share out about why we were making some of the recommendations, and so as appropriate, we participate in those. The next item that's struck is related to the profile in California law schools. And so that was a report I believe we published in 2024. COAF did have the opportunity to provide input and feedback on that. And then out of that came several recommendations related to law schools. And so since that work is completed, I'm recommending that we strike it.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So this is related to the Leadership Seal program. I think as we discussed with Danielle's agenda item, I think outreach and increased participation and visibility will be important for this program, and so that's what we're focused on here. I don't know if there's any
No, I just want to highlight that we also have here identify and suggest adjustments to action plans for the future. And I think Danielle and that working group would welcome any feedback that we may have on action plan items that can be added or adjusted as time goes on.
Didn't we talk about at a previous meeting actually provide, I know we don't give legal advice, but didn't we talk about getting clarification to try to help on this issue, the federal, of like the Harvard decision and how it impacts the California? Didn't we talk about that?
I think we spoke about providing support to SEAL participants on what it looked like to be doing the SEAL with the impact of that decision, which is why, if I'm remembering correctly, and I don't know if Danielle's still on, she may, but I think that's part of why we had that pause this year from January to June, where it was reviewing the action items. I think consulting with Brady's office, the counsel's office, to ensure that everything that we were suggesting was appropriate.
And then during that time, we also did reach out to SEAL recipients.
Okay, good. I was going to say, did we message them?
Yes, and we got their feedback.
Right.
And based on that, we in June this year, we made the decision just to leave everything as is.
Okay. So have we, because obviously we're not giving legal advice, but we know based on Proposition 209, we can't encourage anyone to do anything that would be legal for us, that we have reviewed our plan and it is appropriate. Do we give that message in some way to everybody?
Do.
Awesome. Thank you.
I can vouch for that as a SEAL recipient. Yeah.
Ah, awesome.
Great. Okay, so hearing no requests for revisions, we'll keep moving forward. So the next one is related to professional civility. So we're studying the impact on retention and advancement in the profession, as particularly for underrepresented communities, making recommendations to address how to minimize these impacts as appropriate and share information with employers and attorneys.
So I think this one here allows us to build on some of the studies that working group has done to engage with Kathy's office and others.
Just a question. Shouldn't it be study how professional incivility impacts retention? Because then we say, and address how to minimize these impacts. We don't want to minimize the impacts of professional civility, surely.
That's a good point.
Just a grammar thing, semantics thing. But it might be important.
Thank you. Any other revisions, suggestions? Carlos?
Yeah, I just had a question. As someone new to the council, what sort of things have you guys found that you had to change over the years or that were important that we should be paying attention to? This is sort of our first time in just learning about the action plan. I mean, besides the obvious, I suppose.
Thinking about your question. I want to make sure I understand it properly. Are you saying like the things that COAF can do within this study or the things that have been impactful?
I'm just thinking about the things that, the things that have been impactful and what, if there's anything that we should be thinking about as new members as we go over it, I suppose.
I think for the work plan and Elizabeth, please jump in with more years knowledge. I think something that's been impactful is thinking about those areas where we might have seen particular impact. So one that comes to mind is the imposter syndrome, where a former COAF member started and then myself, and when we were doing the work plan said, hey, we've seen imposter syndrome have an impact on young lawyers, particularly lawyers of color. Can we add that to our work plan to then think about how to address that? And then out of that came the imposter syndrome course that's on the webpage, resources that are on the website that then can be shared out and live sort of evergreen for current or future attorneys. The Be a Lawyer brochure is another one of those, right? The brochure and the videos, I want to say.
I don't know if we have videos.
Wasn't like, didn't Heather arrange like some video
Oh, right,
or
yes,
something?
there are videos.
Yes. Where that happens again. So I think it's using this opportunity to think about like there may be particular things. I don't know if we're there yet. I really would like us to have, if not within a current, creating a space and having a work plan specifically around, as we were discussing, first generation, both college and law, as a group that is understudied and under supported, I think, often. And so part of that is it being at the summit, but are there then ideas that we can think of that can point those individuals to resources to help with their progression through the pipeline and engagement in the profession? Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
That helps.
Okay. But you won't necessarily know everything that is of interest or like whatever today. So that's why at the end of every meeting, we have that discussion of additional initiatives piece where something can be brought up. Additional initiatives can be suggested. We typically try to slot that under one of our work plan items just to make it a little bit more seamless and be mindful of resources, hours, and time committed, state bar staff as well, which is why sometimes these will feel a little broader, I think, because then it gives space for, hey, I had this thought of how we can address incivility, but I didn't think of it in December. I thought of it in February, and it gives us a little bit of wiggle room. Is all of that appropriate? Did I step outside the box too much?
You're dancing on the box.
Yes.
No. I have a question. I see that the State Bar has been working on civility since like at least 2006 because we launched that Civility Toolbox. How does this continued inclusion of the goal advance? Like, what are we doing that is different from what we did back then?
I think we included this, I think, because I think at a prior work plan discussion, I think Shalak brought it up.
I did.
And wanted it included. And so we started to do some research. And I think the timing of our colleagues in the professional competence, submitting those rules to the court, and then now coming back and us they're now, redoing the toolbox and coming and developing a new training. I think that's how we're helping address. Now we're going to partner with that office to work on those issues together.
Oh, so that's new stuff that's happening that they would like us, or we would like to comment on.
So that Kathy came to just give us an update and then invite COAF to participate in it.
Okay, so maybe we could rephrase this goal a little bit to talk about the fact that we've been specifically invited to comment on the training and the just because it's been on here a long time, and I like for it to be.
I think this goal has been a year, 2 years.
2 years, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we added it, I just meant that we've been doing this work apparently for a long time. I didn't realize quite how long until I just looked at the website.
Well, the State Bar has.
Right.
Yeah, I think this was my view that the State Bar had been working on civility, but had not in a sort of targeted way been thinking about the ways that words around civility are weaponized against the people most likely to experience incivility. So often my experience, my view was that people of color, women of color, those in the LGBTQIA plus community would have the word civility weaponized against them when raising concerns about discrimination or violations of 8.4.1 or so on. And so being mindful of creating space where we're looking at how that incivility may be impacting when we look at the attorney retention and going inactive. Are people going inactive because they are experiencing the incivility that purportedly we are trying to solve? Is it being weaponized against? So that's where the study first came from, was that could be my inkling, and others were like, that actually makes sense and we would see that. But do we know can we start doing some study and thoughts around that to know whether or not, and then if that is in fact the case, what can we do to give education around the ways that rules around civility or incivility may be weaponized or used? Are they being used appropriately? So I'm actually really encouraged that Danielle's research and the connection between bias and incivility are going to be included. My understanding from Kathy's presentation in the new toolkit and in the script to specifically call out the ways that bias perpetuates or is engaged in civility. But yeah, maybe it's shifting from study to make recommendations and support, that.
Create a new training.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't saying this to make Elizabeth's life difficult, but I do think that something that I've seen in COAF before is the way that sometimes COAF waits to be invited, and sometimes COAF has said, we think it's important that you hear this voice. And Elizabeth, can you reach out to this office and say that we would like to be engaged in this? We'd like to give comment because we have thoughts on the ways that this is playing out and impacting attorney or potential populations that others just may not be thinking of. And if we wait for a seat at the table will be eaten, cleaned, and reset before we ever get there. So I think we can, manage both.
Can we add something in about the idea I suggested earlier about how judges impact this space for our attorneys? Because I know from anecdotal that a lot of the sensibility is coming from the bench, and it's almost exclusively folks that we are wanting to protect.
I guess my concern there is that the state bar, we don't have jurisdiction over judges.
Right. But can
we say something akin to the CLA, like, and partner with or support or provide resources so that it's not we are telling them what to do, but we are putting in our work plan that we are offering a resource and support if desired from
in the courtroom
I
space.
know, is Judge Diaz still on? Is this an appropriate time to get her comment?
I'm right here.
Hi, Judge Diaz. Sorry for putting you on the spot without giving you notice you were going to be called on. But do you have thoughts on did you hear this conversation? Do you have any thoughts?
I did, and give me the question that you're asking exactly.
I think the question is whether or not it would be appropriate or welcome, maybe is a different way, for COAF to partner with or support CJA in working with judges on civility, incivility, how it impacts attorneys, and so on.
No, I think it's absolutely appropriate, but I do think it's something that you would need to reach out through CJA. But I mean, in listening to today, I completely agree with some of the comments made by some of your committee members that I would be lying if I said I had not heard it's been an issue. And so I definitely think it's something that deserves a discussion that includes judges as well. I think it only makes our system better to do that. So I would hope that we would be open to that because I do think it's appropriate.
We put and partner with or support CJA.
Yeah, sure, but
what would you think, Judge Diaz, for appropriate language? Support, provide resources, partner with.
Active resource for.
I was thinking we keep that first part, but then add it at the end.
Sure, just tell me.
So I'm workshopping here. Do not hold me accountable. I'm glad there are no legal research and writing professors on right now, but make recommendations and support how professional incivility impacts retention and advancement in the profession, particularly underrepresented communities, and provide resources or partner with and provide resources.
How about act as a resource? That's a little more passive. Is that not more?
Right, because I don't know about providing resources. That would be something that I would absolutely not be prepared to say.
Yeah. So would act as a resource to support CJA in similar efforts?
I'm watching you as you type it out here.
Sorry, Elizabeth, you're on the spot.
CJA is California Judges Association.
Mhm. Maybe if they choose to evaluate something like
that
this,
might
too
be
soft,
too hedgy.
too soft.
I mean,
How professional.
we would need their permission.
Right, we
to-
would need, that's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to say right now
Yeah.
without receiving any permission. My opinion today is I think it's absolutely appropriate, but I can't agree to any language, you know.
So perhaps we just take a step back and
Act as
Look-
resources to our judges.
yeah, I mean, and maybe identify this topic that's incivility also in the profession includes attorneys and judges and probably other legal
100%.
professionals.
So,
And not because I agree with Judge Diaz that I don't think we should put
could we
assume that others would want our
say and act as a resource to other associations as desired?
What
So
if we
it's
said
not just
something
the
like-
judges, but we're a resource to bar associations as well as desired.
how about stakeholders?
What,
So, yes.
What if we said something like explore how incivility in the courtroom, including from the bench, impacts lawyers? That could just be the item. And then we can have a study, which we then could go to CJA and the Judicial Council and say, X percentage of attorneys have experienced incivility in the courtroom at the hands of the judge. Look, 82% of them are, Black women, for example.
I think that would be a separate.
That sounds great.
item.
That sounds absolutely great because you're leaving it open.
Yeah, I think that's a separate item and a good separate item.
But maybe that's a way to do it, is because then we're introducing it and we're not stepping over our purview, right? Because we want to be really, bless you.
Excuse me.
Yemi?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, no, I just wasn't sure if you also had a thought to introduce.
I was coughing. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, that's okay too. You're allowed.
So before we move forward, because I did not type what
That's okay.
the words that Justin just said.
Explore how incivility in the courtroom, particularly from the bench, impacts, and then use the same language, right?
Can we?
Retention and advancement. Yeah, of course, whatever you like.
I was just going to say
I can
perhaps
think
instead
mirror.
of particularly, we could say including.
There you go. That's better.
Including from the bench, so it doesn't sound like we're accusing, but
Yes,
we're willing to
much better.
study.
Much better. Yes.
Retention and advancement.
Yeah, because we're really talking about litigation, which is a slightly different sphere than we were otherwise talking about, right? There's a particular focus there.
Yeah.
And I think this would give us the ability to
Right.
do a study, right? Like this intersects with my research and my knowledge of things like belonging, right? I know that people who don't feel like they belong are 75% more likely to XYZ. There's a lot of costs. I'm sure there is similar research that we could conduct in this space that then we would have evidence to talk to judges about, because nobody's doing this on purpose.
Yeah.
We have to start with that assumption, right? And so if they actually are able to look at some data, it's going to make a big difference in this discussion.
What do you think of this language, Judge Diaz, as our liaison?
I think it's perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for jumping in and engaging with this conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Judge Diaz.
So then the prior item,
Mm-hmm.
can we leave, because to Tristan's point, it deals with a slightly different animal of incivility more broadly in the profession, not just in litigation or courtroom.
Sure.
Can we leave this as make recommendations as to
I don't know.
we were?
I think we could leave that one. I don't think it makes sense to add the judiciary there. Do you?
No,
No.
but I'm just saying what it would say.
Oh, right.
Make recommendations to address how? Because we've already kind of done the study part last year. Or do we continue studying?
I was pausing because I was thinking, should this item be related to the work that we will do with the Office of Professional Competence and the toolkit?
Sounds good. That sounds good.
I do think so.
Okay, so maybe it's make recommendations and support development
Mm-hmm.
of the state bar's civility toolkit.
I like that.
Is that,
I think that's good.
because I think we heard from Kathy today that these things, she's inviting COAF to participate because these things we hope to address those things in the toolkit.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Would you be striking the rest of that
Yeah,
language
so
then?
so I'll strike that, so then it looks like that.
Tina, did you unmute? Do you have a comment? I want to make sure you're engaged if you did have one.
No, I'm just part of the working group that has to do
Okay.
with it, so I was going to say something, but you all actually did it, so it's perfect.
Are you sure? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
Great.
Is that all?
Mhm.
Are we at the end of the?
Oh, we have a little bit.
Okay. Sorry, that's why I was looking at you.
Okay. Okay, so this is our research. So we had some examples here. I think some of these topics may be more difficult for us to research than others. And I know when Erica was on earlier, we had additional suggestions. Also when Sylvia was on, there were some additional suggestions for research since her topic has kind of led to other topics. So, we can continue the conversation that we started earlier right here, or if there's specific things we want to put in the for example line or change.
Question?
Yes.
Is this leverage to get budget for folks like Erica and Sylvia to do? I mean, like, do we need to broaden?
No, the budget is the budget. We don't.
I know we don't have anything to do with it, but I mean, does this give you leverage to get?
No.
Okay.
I'll just note what's been updated. It had said identify and study before, and it was updated and share to encompass those briefs that Sylvia mentioned earlier, which I think are first of their kind at the state bar.
Yeah. So we are. So some of these edits, and I apologize, I didn't mention this earlier. I did meet with COAF leadership, so our chair and vice chair, before this meeting to kind of do an initial pass, and so we did make some edits to encompass some of the things that we are hoping to do. And so the diversity briefs, that's what we're calling them right now, is a plan for us to share out the research that we're doing to kind of make that kind of be educational pieces for attorneys and employers and others who might be interested.
So does anyone have anything to add into those less considered forms of diversity? My notes from earlier are a little sparse, I apologize. On that, I recall hearing neurodiversity, mental and behavioral health, but anything to add in there or take away? So we started discussing this generation. Tia?
I have just recommended geographical diversity, but we can either not put it here, or I did mention it to Erica.
But
that might not be necessary at all.
So we do have an item, I believe it's coming up, so pardon the scroll. So increase awareness and address challenges faced by attorneys and legal organizations in rural areas. Is that, does that get at what you're thinking about?
It does. It does. I mean, it's kind of one piece, and probably if it's the most significant piece around geographic, like barriers or something like that, then I think that we should hone in on the main focus, as opposed to making it extremely broad. So I like that. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
We've done any work on veterans?
We do collect data on veterans. And actually veterans are a group that we've found that like the percentage of veterans is equal to the percentage of veterans in California. So it's like there's parity there. Where we would need further study to understand why. But that is a group we do collect data on.
Okay. Well, because I just as
Would you like to add veterans?
Well, I was thinking that. I mean, as I look at that list, when I frequently am talking to employers, I'm trying to get them to think of the very broad types of diversity, not all of which is legally protected. Of course, veteran status is, but I include things like communication style. I include things like veterans, and I would always include ideological/religion, because those are things that employers are asking me about, right? Like whether it's a political, a lot of companies are asking about political discussions, right? Like, do we have to allow that? Or, you know what I'm saying? So, but I just share that as those are the kinds of things that round out this, cornucopia of things. I don't know that we need to spend energy on those things, but I'm just sharing them. Maybe we see what the team thinks.
I wonder if we added generational differences a year or two ago, I believe, and perhaps we could take that out and include, I do think religious or ideological, which are not necessarily one and the same.
Of course not.
But religious diversity may be good and interesting, even important to engage.
Well, and given our climate, right? Like there's a lot of hatred that's happening,
And we could remove generational differences.
Oh, you don't want to like the idea of ideology as well?
Oh, sorry. I was saying to Elizabeth that what I had said before was that we could remove generational differences before I got to.
You want to keep it?
Thought we'd studied it.
Are we doing more work on it?
I mean,
it's never hard to.
I mean, yeah. I just feel like it's a good topic.
It is. I just thought, I was like, oh, we've been there, done that. Bought the T-shirt.
I'm sorry.
We had ideological.
Okay.
It's a broad word, right? Like, but the idea is, if you're talking about Israel-Palestine, is that ideology or is it religion? It's not necessarily either, right? If you're talking about Republican and Democrat, which is another thing that comes up all the time in surprising offices as well. Again, that's more protected, but employers have no idea what to do. They just have no idea. And even just a simple, like a brief about that, I think could be really helpful from the State Bar. Discourage your employees from identifying their party in the office.
Yami, were you trying to say something? No? Sorry, I'm using
scratching my eye.
Okay, sorry. I'm using my teaching tactics where one of the things teaching on Zoom is always trying to figure out if someone's trying to say something and that they don't feel cut out. So that's why you see me being like, did that person raise their hand? Did that person blink 3 times?
Yeah, no worries.
So I apologize for calling you out.
No, you're okay.
Does anybody have thoughts on these?
Any others to add or take away?
One thought that I am having is, did you say communication style?
I did.
Is perhaps we might want to have just like a broader topic and do research on a broader topic and see where that goes. I think that's like our AI and bias research is a good example of like one question will lead to like several other questions that are like sort of related, but also like a whole other areas where we could explore. So that's just a thought.
Yeah, that would definitely go well with any kind of neurodiversity research, or because think about what I'm talking about is introverts versus extroverts, right? And getting the most out of your employees. And so that would fit very nicely in one of those other areas, definitely.
And so the other thing I'm thinking about is this is quite a long list.
Yes.
And so I am not certain that we would complete this list in 1 year. And if everybody is...
Take them back off?
Or no, if I'm not saying we have to take them off. I'm just saying these are just like ideas, right?
Right.
And so, we're not going to be able to, I don't think we're going to be able to research like 7 topics.
So why don't we
limit
limit
it?
Let's limit it.
Well, I think leaving this and having a longer list allows, my view is that this list is descriptive, not prescriptive. So this might say then the staff might start looking very broadly at 3 of these and go, there really isn't anything available on 2 of these, but I can hone in on 1, then by the end of the year, we would have researched 1 or 2. And this is just giving a starting point for considerations on less known forms to research, but not saying within this year, we must have briefs on all 7 of these. But these are things to start considering having briefs and having research on. And one might be, you know, in January, people start looking and go, okay, we could really delve into ideological, or we could really delve into this. And then that's the one that gets sort of zoomed in on. But we have these as identified areas that could be a starting point for, well, what could we research?
As long as it's not too broad of a focus for staffs to really feel they have guidance. What do you think, Elizabeth?
I think what you just said, Shalak, was really helpful. I just want to be sure we're not biting off more than we can chew.
Right.
Yeah. If I think I like that this is a descriptive list for us as a starting point.
Yeah.
So if we are all in agreement, that works for me.
Is everyone okay with that? Again, I see nods and thumbs.
Do you want to put some language in there that kind of mirrors that? Like instead of e.g., maybe, for example, such topics might include?
Sure.
Just to kind of put that framing on it, that we're not saying, please study all of these things.
Yeah.
What do you think of that,
That's
Sheila?
great.
You
Yeah,
like that?
I think that's
Okay.
good.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, strike. Just kidding.
I thought exactly the same joke in my head.
Plan and participate in state bar diversity summits, ongoing.
So I
that
think
remains.
that's a good one. Okay. Okay, so this is just this was the study AI and bias project. Now it's to share information on. We changed it to, I'm recommending we change it to this just because we're not quite done with it yet, and we will be doing a little bit of work in it into the new year.
Love that.
Yeah. And then we previously discussed the rural.
Yes. So is there anything we would like to add or change to this one?
It says increase awareness and address challenges, which I think presupposes that we know what the experience and challenges are. And it may be that a few years ago there was research done. But to something that I think Tita may have been alluding to before, do we want to indicate that we may need to study or engage with and increase awareness and address challenges? Because I think we're assuming we know all of the challenges, or that there are challenges, and perhaps just starting engaging, studying, and then increasing awareness might be helpful this year. Tina, I saw some nods, but is that a little bit of what I think you were alluding to?
Absolutely. You can just speak for me the rest of the time.
Don't give me that. My husband will tell you that's a bad thing to say to me.
So study.
All right, I retract that statement.
Study and engage with attorneys and legal organizations in rural areas? Or is that too narrow now?
Thinking.
Did you want to go broad and say something
Yeah.
like study and engage with attorneys impacted by geography or something like in rural, a bit broader? And I like the study because one of the things we had suggested earlier was that we might find out how we could best support them in the hiring practice, right? Or how law schools could do that.
Do we need to have is there something else that we are going to actually do besides study? So once we do study it, then what's the next, CTA that we would do to help with challenges faced by attorney? Could it be, study challenges faced by attorneys in legal organization rural areas to such and such and such? So I'm just trying to figure out to make sure that we're adding exactly what we would like to see happen with that study, I think is how I'm trying to process it right now.
Sure.
Could it be study the experiences of? No, just kidding.
Because I don't know how we would do that.
Okay.
So how about study challenges faced by attorneys and legal organizations in rural areas, and increase awareness?
Yeah.
To
increase awareness.
to increase awareness.
To reduce the impact of attorney deserts.
Oh.
Mm.
Okay.
Somebody else official used that language, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Elizabeth did.
Desert, not dessert.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Group writing is always fun.
Does that encapsulate a bit of what you were getting at earlier? Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, let me change the date.
Can I add one? I can't remember if it's further down, but I would like to say study challenges faced by first generation attorneys.
I thought you wanted that removed.
No,
up above.
No, I wanted it something specific.
Oh, okay.
Study, I don't think we have one.
I couldn't remember.
So, and first generation,
I mean that as just as broadly as we were discussing earlier, that it might be first generation college and or first generation law.
okay, so I do want to note that the purview of the state bar is.
Well, no, I mean
Okay.
as they're in law school or as they're attorneys, but that someone who was a first generation college as an attorney may be facing different challenges than someone who was
Okay.
who's an attorney but was first generation law. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I don't.
So there are perhaps different challenges that I might face if I'm the first person in my family to graduate high school and go to college, that might encapsulate but be broader than the challenges that someone might face where they have someone in their family who's completed a 2-year or 4-year degree but hasn't gone to law school. There might be additional hurdles in my legal practice, in my wealth gap, in my practice area, even my geographic limitations that may come up semi-differently than they would with someone who may have people in their families who've achieved higher education and we're both still attorneys, but it may play out differently.
I actually no, I understand now.
Okay.
Because in my family, even in my big extended family, I'm the only attorney, but I'm in no way consider myself first gen, right? Like I've had support every step of the way, college, high school, et cetera. So I think if maybe that's kind of what you're getting at, then that makes sense. Why would we study just that you're the
Well, I'm saying even both. I'm saying both may exist. And so I think studying both broadly and identifying what might be for new attorneys, unique challenges that both may face. Some of them might be similar, some of them might be disparate, but then how we support those both from the state bar's perspective, a policy perspective, how we encourage the law schools to support those, how we encourage firms, large, medium, what those might look like in solo, what those may look like. I'm curious if there's overlap with some of the attorney discipline or trust account issues, that there could be a lot of different ways that those experiences play out. That again, it could be the same if neither has anyone who's gone to law, but then it could be exacerbated if you are also the first one to have completed high school or college.
But it's got to be much worse, right? I mean, like, I don't think we should be spending resources studying people like me.
I think
like
that
every
depends.
benefit.
Yeah, but then I'm thinking intersectionality. So that may be true, but we may have someone who is Black or Hispanic who I'll say as an example, I had a prospective law student who asked me if they should identify as first gen if they and their parent graduated college together. So they both went to school together. The parent was an immigrant. The prospective student helped the parent also apply to college. They went through school together. They graduated together or within a semester of each other. And that person said, well, am I technically a first gen college graduate? Because my parent graduated technically like at the same time or 3 months before me, but the experience, right? And then going to law school, there's not the same advantage as if your parent, grandparent, great grandparent went to college and you just happen to be the first lawyer. So I think there's some nuance and intersectionality that could come out there that's at least worthy of study. We may not have much to do with it yet. But.
So,
yeah.
Yemi?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit of color here too. Sorry, my phone's going off. While I take the larger point that, like maybe there's there's a question about whether or not there's, value in studying, one type of first gen in the profession. I do think it's interesting and good to know, as you look at folks' success and satisfaction and their sense of whether or not they've been treated fairly or seen in the profession, um, how close they are in their familiar sense with the profession generally, because then there may be other signals that people are getting to know how to navigate the profession because they have other legal professionals in their family, right? That can advise them in other ways. And it just might be interesting to just kind of split that out and get a sense of, does it matter for folks' satisfaction and trajectory if they are the first lawyer in their family versus come from a family of lawyers? I just think that that's potentially interesting. And I'll give a sort of another example of how this first generation thing plays out, kind of interesting. My dad is a PhD, right? But my mom didn't graduate from college. But on my mom's side of the family, I'm ostensibly the first college graduate because my parents got divorced when I was little. You know what I mean? So it's complicated with people's proximity to those degrees and the support that comes from knowing the professional network or the habits of those professionals, and if we're really trying to access people's sense of satisfaction and fairness in the profession and in their time in our state's bar, to the extent that we can find the one or two salient questions that help us cut to that. What's 63 questions versus 60? If it's 40 versus 60, we're in a different position, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thanks for indulging.
And I'll put the date as next year.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we kind of alluded to this in our earlier discussions today. Identify, study, and share feedback and information on recruitment and retention initiatives across sectors, and for solo and small firms. So at the State Bar, and with our various diversity report cards, we traditionally refer to the three main sectors in our legal profession. So that's private, there's the government or public sector, and then nonprofit sector. So those are what we're talking about there, and then for solos and small firms as well. So this is, I think, going to be a big topic, a broad topic.
Yeah, you just have to change that to 26.
Okay.
Don't know if you saw.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I assume you're going to go back through, but. Okay, great.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were on. Oh, right. Provide input and feedback on recruitment retention. So you added in the three sectors?
Changed it to identify, study, and share feedback and information on recruitment and retention initiatives.
Yeah, because previously, and I'm sorry, I didn't note this, previously it was very focused on monitoring loan repayment assistance programs. And that is really for public and nonprofit sector, impacting recruitment and retention in nonprofit and government sector. And so we wanted to, I thought, expanding it to be broader across sectors and to include solo and small firms.
Is it still about loan?
No, it could include it, but it would be larger than just that as a one initiative that supports recruitment and retention.
Okay, identify, study, and share feedback and information on
Maybe it's not feedback, it's
and retention.
I think it's information.
Okay. So it's kind of shifting the focus on something we did before to now adding in a new. Great.
Yeah, looking at what information there is on recruitment and retention across sectors and for solos and small firms to more broadly.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, great.
Does that column on the right line up with that, or does it need to?
Yeah.
So that thank you. Was that Tita who mentioned that? Thank you. Yeah. So I will with your permission, with COAF's permission, I will go back and make sure that with the changes that we've made, that it all aligns with the goal and
Strategies
and implementation steps. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make sure it all before we submit this to the board.
Thanks, Tita. Okay.
Okay, we're getting into the home stretch here. One of the items that we removed a little bit earlier was related to the law school study. And one of the recommendations that came out of the study is to look at the law school accreditation process. As many of you know, that in California, there, in addition to the American Bar Association approved law schools, there are also California accredited law schools that are accredited by the state bar. And so in the past, COAF members have provided feedback on some of these accreditation rules. I think notably with COAF's input, there is now a rule that California accredited law schools must have a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan that's appropriate for their school. I'm not sure if the Office of Admissions will be working on the law school accreditation process rules next year. It is a possibility. They have not set their work plan yet. Because I think we're all setting work plans at this juncture. We can leave this here knowing that it may come up, but it may not.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to leave it here because I do think it's important for COAF's lens to be on the
Okay. And I will say that this is different from a kind of the bar exam items because we know that there won't be changes to the bar exam in the near term, but with the accreditation process, they were planning to work on this in 2025. However, because of the issues with the bar exam, this was put on hold. So I still don't know if this will go in 26, but there is, this is work that I think will be ongoing.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. I think this is our last item. So, I think it was in 2019 or 2020, COAF worked on amending state bar rules related to our MCLE, minimum continuing legal education requirements, to require that attorneys take 2 hours of elimination of bias credit each reporting cycle, with one of those being on implicit bias. At the time, COAF wanted to make it accessible, so worked with staff in my office as well as the Office of Professional Competence to develop a module in our e-learning platform on implicit bias. We have been reviewing feedback, and we actually just updated it last year. Thank you. The goal is to update it every 3 years to kind of align with the reporting schedule for attorneys. I think we should still continue to review the feedback regularly, but we won't need to actually make changes to the training module until 2028. I would like to just keep the reviewing, because from time to time, if there is anything significant, I would like to bring it to the group.
That sounds good. Any other thoughts around that, Tita?
Is this future training module, is this annually?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of your question.
Is this training supposedly annually? And
So this is a training that exists. It's like a recorded training, for lack of a better way to put it, on our e-learning platform.
I think she means 3 years. It's required once every 3 years.
Oh yeah. So attorneys are required to complete 2 hours of what we call elimination of bias credit every 3 years, with one of those hours being specifically related to implicit bias. And so this training module that was developed is focused on implicit bias.
Great. Yeah, no, the only reason why I asked is because that's one of the criteria for SEAL that is a problem for the Superior Court, because we're mandated to do that implicit bias training every 2 years, and that's through, what is it called? I cannot remember the name of it, but it's a requirement, but it's state, and we can't change it to annually. So that's one aspect of the SEAL requirement that we can't change, because we're required to do it every 2 years. So that's why I was just kind of like, I wonder what this is about. So it's different, But so I apologize. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so I think that
Is that the last
is our
item?
last item.
Excellent discussion. Is there anything that you all feel we had a robust discussion, but anyone who thinks is missing or was not addressed as we went through?
I had a question. I'm not sure if this is covered in the portion about accreditation, but do we look at or are we looking at the effort to create a law school within one of the Cal State schools in San Jose State, and how that could change the landscape?
That would be within the purview of CS bars, looking at creation of law schools. And I apologize, I don't know off the top of my head what CS bar stands, what that acronym stands for. Yeah, so that wouldn't be in the purview of COAF.
Or I guess maybe not the actual accreditation of the school itself, but how it affects access, I suppose. Particularly to underrepresented groups.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's partially in COAF if it's engaging with the accreditation standards.
Okay, so CS bars is first Committee of State Bar Accredited and Registered Schools. So perhaps if that might be related to this item related to the law school accreditation process. Do you? I mean, we could.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if we wanted to add something about.
Or I'm sort of thinking just the effect of having the Cal States have the ability to provide law schools.
So is it study
that affects
put as appropriate?
Not the accreditation, but
as far as
yeah, I don't know if we were to look into that at all, or
what's the question? I'm not really sure where it would.
But could it be, Carlos? I'm just spitballing, which is a disgusting term now that I think about it. Study and provide input as appropriate to CS bars on the impact of new law schools on attorney desert or access to the profession. Is that what you're?
I mean, within the California State University system in particular,
yeah,
as opposed to the UC system or private schools, right?
My hesitation is I don't know what their priorities are, and I don't think it's appropriate to tell them what their priorities should be.
Can we, in addressing this, maybe put comma after on the law school accreditation process, comma, and provide support as requested on newly proposed law schools?
So I mean, I guess my question is: is this a live issue
proposal,
or is this something that? I guess I don't have enough background.
Because with San Jose State, the California State Assembly is pushing it to become the first accredited law school within a state university within the Cal State system, and I was just curious, and I'm interested to see personally how that affects enrollment rates or access to law school for folks that may not otherwise be attending. So I don't know.
That's actively being?
Yes. I think it was introduced by Cortese.
Thinking.
Wouldn't it fit under one of our big goals, and so we could always explore it later in the year? I mean, we have enough room, don't you think, with the law schools?
I mean, I think it fits here. I don't know how to succinctly state that addressing that specific issue because I don't know what the legislature has asked of the state bar related to that. So I do think if it is something that comes up throughout the year where there's some there that is the COAF would act on, I think it would probably fit here. We would coordinate with my colleagues in the Office of Admissions on that. I just don't know if we need to be so specific.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So then maybe Carlos, because on every agenda, we have that item discussion of additional initiatives. That's kind of like our catch-all last item. So perhaps if you hear of more, or we learn of more that comes up around this, then we can propose items throughout the year and initiatives or working groups, et cetera, specifically around this. Does that make sense? And then we would still have this goal that we could slot it under if necessary.
Okay, thanks.
Does that work, Elizabeth?
Did you ask for new ideas for the plan?
I was just making sure when this came up, Carlos said,
Of course.
if there was anything that anyone throughout the discussion thought we had missed or had been hanging on to, waiting to see if it fit in anywhere or had anything new to add.
I just have a thought, and this may be just no needed, but given the immigration crisis and what's happening with our California immigration attorneys, I wonder if there's something we could do to support them as a bar.
As the state
Well, as
bar.
COAF, right? Like,
As
could we know immigration tends to be our global majority attorneys, right? We know that they are probably dealing with burnout at higher rates. I'm just wondering if there's any kind of support, given California's very clear stance, that we might be able to provide a little extra boost to try to keep them from leaving in the middle of this crisis.
I mean, I think that goes to the topic related to retention.
I'm just wondering if it makes sense to have that be an actual plan. Like, one of my big clients this year was federal defenders, and they are that's like all they're dealing with, right? And they're just overwhelmed. And I don't know if it's just sort of a public, like, cheerleading. It's just a thought, because it seems like we might be able to help in that space. But I don't know. That could be totally outside of our purview.
It may be outside
That's what
of
I
our
was
purview.
just trying to think through is what's within the purview there.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments on the work plan? Do we need a motion to approve the work plan?
Yes.
Okay, so seeing no thoughts or comments, is there a motion to approve this 2026 work plan and submit it to the Board of Trustees for approval?
I would make that motion, but I would add, as Elizabeth is able to clean up and, right, so you don't have to come back to us.
Great.
Okay, so I'm hearing it as a motion to submit the work plan with space for what we would call stylistic and grammatical corrections.
Non-substantive.
Non-substantive, thank you.
Perfect. I'm just gonna
roll call.
No, I'm going to actually type the motions and share the motion on the screen so you can all look at it.
Okay, thank you.
And I should have done this in advance, so I apologize.
No.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the 2026 work plan as presented to the committee, allowing for non-substantive edits and cleanup in Elizabeth's discretion. And then whatever.
Yay, thank you, Yami.
And then whatever language you need as far as
And Yami's like, I can keep this process moving. Robert's rules, delightful. I love those who are familiar.
Well, when you're surrounded by happy little trees, it's easier to be efficient. Keep things moving.
And my painter's sweater, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or artist sweater. yeah.
Elizabeth is just gonna finish typing it
Okay,
and
so
share
I'm gonna
screen so we
okay.
can feel,
Okay.
I guess, confident with it.
Yeah, just so that we're all on the same page. And I should have done this
No.
Stop it.
earlier.
We take very few votes here, so. Okay, so this is the motion before us that Yemi has put forward. I'm sorry, Tristan has put forward and Yemi has seconded. And we will now take a roll call vote.
Mm-hmm.
Roll call vote on the motion.
Okay, Adebomiri,
Yes.
Chakshi,
Approved.
Leon, absent. Gray,
Approved.
Higgins,
Approve.
Rosario,
Approved.
View,
Approved.
Zakir, absent. Davis,
Approved.
Guinness.
Approved.
We have 8 yeses, 0 nays. Motion carries.
Excellent.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Then just for the last items on our agenda, and thank you to our liaisons for their patience. I did not see our CLA liaison, am I correct?
That's correct.
All right, so we will have a liaison report from our Cal Law liaison, Rachel Satanovich. And thank you for being with us today, Rachel.
Thank you for having me. So hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Satanovich. I'm the Development and Event Specialist at Cal Law Pathways. I have been here for a little over a year now. So this is my first meeting and it's been a pleasure. I feel like I've learned a lot. But as you might know or not, Cal Law has a new director, Caitlin Jackson. Dr. Caitlin Jackson brings over a decade of experience in advancing educational equity and student success. So we're glad to have her. Our team has expanded a little bit. We do have Michelle Grace, who's now a part-time employee. And we have Gladys Puente Valentine. You might have seen her before. She has attended these meetings when our former director had to step away for health reasons. So a little bit about Cal Law, if you're not familiar, we are a statewide education to legal careers pathway program for students from historically excluded, first generation, or non-traditional backgrounds and communities. Cal Law is the only statewide effort specifically focused on building a pathway through community colleges. So we partner with 36 community colleges, 24-year institutions, and 16 accredited law schools across California. We have a few new pathway partners. We have Merced Community College, Norco Community College, Foothill Community College, UC Merced, which they're in the process of signing, and Cal Western Law School. And then although we are primarily focused on community college to law school, we do collaborate with the California Legal Pathways Collaborative Law Academy program that's housed at the California Lawyers Foundation. So yeah, and a little bit more about our year. Since we have more staff, we've had more support, and we've been able to expand some of our efforts. So the past year, we've served over 600 students through statewide student learning events. This includes a day at the California Supreme Court, virtual application workshops for 4 years, and law school partners. We've had civic engagement events like Constitution Day. And then we're also able to award 2 student stipends, $1,000 each, that were awarded at our summit. We awarded 5 gift cards for students that completed our surveys, and they were randomly selected. So that was one way for us to expand some, making this journey more accessible, and we hope to continue that effort. We held our first ever networking event in Sacramento for students, educators, alumni, and law professionals to kind of mix and mingle. We also launched our first ever giving campaign with the goal to spread program awareness, but also booster our donor base. We've engaged with over 58,000 supporters across Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And we also had our annual Pathways to Law Summit this past year at Chapman University. And thanks to all of you, we, as a presenting sponsor, your support was vital to our ability to host these events each year at no cost to the community college students to attend. So at Chapman, we had over 300 students and educators, and now this upcoming summit, it'll be on February 20th, 2026 at UC Law San Francisco. It's a full day, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. We bring together 300 community college students and educators to participate in pre-law panels, mock trials, and connect with legal professionals. And this is actually a new membership benefit for our community college partners. Previously, they've not been guaranteed a certain amount of spots, but this year as part of the membership, we guaranteed 5 student tickets and 2 educator tickets. And we're actually exploring a new venues for next year because normally we host it at the law school, but they have limited capacity. So we're hoping to expand our venues so that even more students are able to come. This year's theme is Our Voice, Our Impact, which centers on empowering students to use their legal education to advance justice and equity. And we'd be honored again to have your support this year in February. And we'd also love to invite a few of you to come join our day to see the work firsthand. So if you're interested, I realize there's no chat box, so I can't drop in my email, but my last name is very long, so I'm sorry. But
Rachel, I can share
Okay.
your email with everybody.
Yeah, that would be great. So yeah, we would love for you to join if you're in San Francisco and you are free that day, February 20th. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for your report. I've had the pleasure of attending prior summits, and so if you all are able and available, I encourage you to attend as well. Thank you, Rachel. And then our final report for today, Judge Diaz, thank you so much for always just being here, for engaging in our conversation. We welcome your report from the Judicial Council.
Well, thank you. So I am a member of the Judicial Council's Advisory Committee on Providing Access and Fairness, and I have a very short update to report today on our ongoing progress related to our projects on our 2025 annual agenda. We are leading a proposal to implement the requirements of Assembly Bill 1899. It's related to gender neutrality and inclusivity on juror questionnaires and other written materials. The proposal was approved to circulate for comment today and has an anticipated effective date of July 1st, 2026. Also, our 2026 annual agenda was approved on November 18th by the Judicial Council's Executive and Planning Committee, and we are going to be working on the following projects in 2026. The development of a directory of interpreters in high-demand emerging languages who are available using video remote technology to provide interpretation services to the courts. Cycle 8 of the signage and technology grants. Further, a proposal to clarify deadlines for the request for reasonable accommodations in the Form MC 410, which is basically the disability accommodation request. And lastly, the development of additional resources for court staff and bench officers related to racial justice and improving the diversity of the courts. And that is about it.
Thank you so much, Judge Diaz, again. Thank you all for your time, for your engagement. I'm excited about this year and this work plan. I look forward to seeing you, hopefully many of you remotely on Tuesday at the summit. I'm going to remind you again, if you haven't registered, please do so. Look forward to seeing you at the summit on Tuesday, and then at our next meeting in March, and the State Bar staff will be circulating calendar invites and dates for next year's meeting. So have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you and your loved ones are well and healthy, because there's been a lot going around. So have a great one all. Thank you very much.
Bye,
Thank you, everybody.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Bye.
Thank you so much.